Hoka hey, Alita Army. Welcome to the Alita live stream of June the 20th, 2025. Ghost in the System, an Alita Battle Angel story part 3, where we discuss all things to do with the movie Alita Battle Angel, the source manga Gunham, and the greatly desired sequels. I am your host, Creek Indian from Denver, Colorado, and with me from Fountain, Colorado is Lee. How's it going, Lee?
Hey, not too bad.
Cool.
Very warm.
Lee's our guest of honor today. That's cool. And from the Shires in jolly old England, we have Lottie. How's it going, Lottie?
Hello. Yeah, also very warm.
Yes, that's the way it is here as well. And that's the way, I bet that's the way it is down there too, isn't it?
We're in full heat wave mode in the UK, even though it's probably not that hot for you guys. Very hot for us.
No,
getting up to 30-ish.
Yeah, we got 34 here in Fountain with a heat advisory.
Yeah, that's what we got. We got 94. I guess that's what 30. Yeah, that's 34, isn't it? Yeah. So we got a heat advisory as well. It's
hot.
Yeah, it's hot. I was gonna say there's a saying down south that it's hotter than a two-thing billy goat. So that's a southern saying. I'm not going to say the word. So anyway, yeah, but it's really hot. So I see we got Alita the Killing Angel out there. That's pretty cool. Good to see you. And we have the Bad Man out there. That's pretty cool too. Bad Man is kind of I don't know. He's kind of like the Alita Army intellectual, I think. I think he knows a lot more about the manga and maybe not so much more in the movie, but because the movie was pretty short and we all seen it. But the manga, the Bad Man, I guess the only one that maybe challenges knowledge might be Maxie, but that's because Maxie's the Pope. So that's the way that works. And
well, if he's the Pope, maybe Bad Man's the Bishop. Yeah,
something like that. So that's the way it works. So anyway, and Lee, guess what I forgot to do? I forgot to do this. So anyway, so Lottie, how's other than the weather, how are things going over there in the UK?
Fine. Just past. Everything's pretty grim politically and everything. But I saw 28 Years Later, and that was pretty good. So all good here.
Wow. Okay.
Did you say you're going to see that? Did you watch 28 Days Later?
I would like to see that. Yeah. Has that got Rose in it?
No, Creaky, no Rosa.
God. I don't know.
She's not casting nearly enough. It would be nice if she was casting everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Did you watch the original 28 Days Later? Do you know what it is?
I think I've seen that a long time ago, but gosh.
The zombie movie from like the early 2000s.
Yeah. That's been a while. So yeah, I don't remember much about it.
Well, they made a sequel 28 years later, however long it is.
28 years later. That's pretty cool.
Actually, I think it's like 23 or something. I can't remember exactly when the first one came out. But
yeah, because it came out.
It's set 28 years after the like zombie pandemic.
The rage virus.
The rage
virus. I'm not usually much on zombie movies. I like vampire movies a lot, but that's why I'm excited to see the Vampires of the Velvet Lounge, with Rose in it. That's going to
which is now called the Green Fairy. Let's mention.
Yeah, something like that. So I'm still going to watch it though because it is a vampire movie. So anyway,
Green Fairy sounds like it's from Peter Pan or something.
Bad Man isn't 28 years later story about Alita fans and the Alita sequel.
Exactly, yeah. If
Damn,
that can
feels like it doesn't.
Feeling like it, yeah.
It's been like 15, 20 years since the last one, so if they can wait that long, I guess we can wait a while too.
Well, I hope they get that sequel done before the creek departs the planet. I can tell you that. Although I'll see it through your eyes, I guess, if that happens.
Yeah.
So anyway. All right. Well, enough for the pleasantries here. I guess just want to remind folks that we got the LA Fires fundraiser going on over at GoFundMe. And you can see that I guess Angelus and I, we use our real names, and you can do that as well. You don't have to. You can do like Lottie did. He puts his handle on there, Vladi99, or except on, I guess on Twitter, it's Vladi777, isn't it, Vladi, something like that?
Yeah.
And I think Panini Freak, I think she used her name too when she donated. And I think Alita Rave, he used anonymous, I think. And he and I, you know, we kind of seeded the thing to begin with. And then I put my name in way back when, and he put anonymous. So, you know, I mean, you can do that. You know, if you don't want your name and your, you know, that to get out in the internet and stuff like that, then you can just, you know, put either your internet handler or you know, specify that to be anonymous. But, you know, for me, it doesn't bother me that much. You know, I get a lot of spam calls anyway, so and a lot of spam email, so I guess it doesn't really matter too much. But we haven't had any donations for a while yet, but that's okay. You know, all of the money has gone to the Greater Good charity, and and GoFundMe's reimbursed me all the money as well. So, you know, that's so we're sitting kind of at a net zero here on that one. So if you can and you want to donate, you know, some money, no amount's too small. You just kind of click on that that website you see below the image on your screen, which happens to be the actual website address, or website itself is down in the description below the screen here, and it'll take you to the website. You can donate, and if you only want to donate $1 or £1 or €1 or you know, $1 dinero or whatever, you know, it is you want to donate, that's fine. You know, you can do that. And we still got the Alita sequel petition going now. I was going to put some money in this week, but I've had a little bit of a catastrophe here at my house. I had a leak. Oh, no. Yeah, down here in my gym and office is down here in the basement, you know, and I basically, you know, I was kind of, I guess, watering the lawn basically is what I was doing, you know, and my sprinkler system is on the fritz. So I had to go get one of those little manual watering devices, you know. So I went out and turned it on, everything, and, you know, when I went back outside and turned it off, and I noticed there was some water down in kind of like, I got like a little bit of an opening down here in the, you know, I got a couple of windows, you know, one in each. I got 2 rooms down there in the basement, and I noticed there was water in that thing. I said, holy crap, what is this? You know, so I thought, well, maybe it is leaking a little bit. Then I came down here after that and then looked inside, and, you know, some of the drywall's falling off the ceiling, and the carpet was wet, and it was just a mess down here. So anyway, it's been, and then plus I've got a big project I'm working on. So anyway, you know, it kind of put me behind the 8 ball there on that one. But I am going to put some more money in there on this, because I am right now promoting this as well, you know, at least on my channel. But I don't kind of get the reach, I guess, that change.org does. So I'm going to put probably about a couple of $100 in there, you know, to kind of kick it and get going again. So, you know, just get that sequel petition, let Disney know we still want those sequels. And if you haven't signed it, which I am so sure that everybody on this stream has signed the petition already, but if you haven't, you know, if you have, rather, let your friends know, you know, the petition's going and whatever. And you see the website there below the change.org website below the image on the screen there. That's also down in the description. You can click on it. You don't have to give money. All you want to do is just say sign a petition. You got to enter your name and your email address, but you can specify that to be anonymous. You know, and then if you want to, you just you know, click on, I believe that button, click on support now, takes you to another part of the web page or something like website, and you specify how much money you want to donate, something like that. It works something to that effect anyway. So please sign the petition if you haven't, and we want to remind Disney, as we continually do, even if it is 28 years later, Badman, we definitely want Disney to remember that we want these Alita sequels. The Creek wants 6 movies is what I want, you know, and the more the merrier. I guess somebody suggested on one stream we have 9 movies. Okay, I'd be great with that as well, you know. And a series, and, you know, some more anime, and of course we are getting some more manga, so that's going to be pretty cool. And just one thing I wanted to say about that, this right here, there's no new news particularly, but Alita Rave and I both submitted proposals for a story. You know, he solicited amongst the folks that are signed up to Brass Knuckle Films on the website, you know, to give us your idea, you know, about, you know, what kind of story you want to have and that kind of thing. And of course, you guys probably know what the Creek submitted. I submitted an Alita story, and it was basically that short that I had that I wrote some time back, and you know, put it, you know, submitted that. I didn't actually submit the story itself. You know, it's a kind of a proposal type thing. You got to break it down and summarize it and stuff like that. And Alita Rave also did, and I don't think he did an Alita story. He may have done something similar, but I you know, he got someone who's a science fiction writer to help him, you know, and they put together a whiz bang one, you know, so we'll see how that goes, you know. But I imagine Robert, if he does read a good percentage of these, they probably screen them before he gets them. But if he does see mine, he'll probably chuckle. Oh yeah, here's an Alita fan who wants an Alita story. So that's okay. I'm all right with that. So. And we do have Rose's Queen Studios Bust of Alita, and we want to get this to her as an expression of our admiration, appreciation, and affection for our queen. And you know, we want her to have this in any way she wants us to get it to her. We'll do this. She knows I have it, and she wants it. At least she told me she wanted it the last time I talked to her, you know, which was some months ago. But you know, it's probably going to be one of those things, like we've said in the past, where it would be more apropos, I guess, to present this to her when they greenlight the Alita sequels, you know, and kind of get a whole big thing going there. And that may be what she's waiting for. And that's all right. You know, I don't have any issue with that because it's in the box. That's, you know, the box has not been opened. And when we do get this thing ready to go, but for her, you know, any way she wants to get it, then I am going to open the box and make sure it's okay. You know, it would be super embarrassing to give her something that was broken. So I don't want to do that, you know, so, but I don't imagine anything has happened like that. I know Star Bellion had it for a while. He never opened the box. And I've had it for at least a couple of years, and I've never had it. I've never opened it. So it's probably good. You know, there's probably nothing wrong with it, but I want to be absolutely sure that thing's in good shape before we present it to her, you know. And we have the Alita Gaming Network. And of course, the Creek couldn't make it again last Monday because I had to work.
What happened?
I had to work again. We got this project going. It should be over with here in the next couple of weeks. So, you know, I won't be tied up as much, you know, then. But I did log on for a little while, you know, to see if anybody was interested. You know, I mean, I was probably 30 minutes late, I think, something like that. But I waited for a while, and of course, I think Lottie, you were already in bed, and so was Smendrick. So, you know, I think that's the way that worked. But
yeah, I didn't remember anyway, to be fair.
Yeah, but you know, but the main thing is we do have watch parties on here. We have had them. You know, that's almost like history now, I guess. But you know, the last watch party we were involved in was Chariot, which Rosa was in. That's a really neat movie. I mean, I was kind of disappointing. I'm not going to give it away. You should go see the movie, but I was disappointed in the ending, of course. And we have seen her in Good Crazy, and we watched that Star Trek short she did. You know, we've watched that a couple of times. And of course, we did watch Alita Battle Angel early on. You know, just a couple of weeks or so after we set up the watch party channel. You know, so. But we are going to do one, and I swear, if I'm free on Monday, we're going to have another watch party. So, you know, one thing that's neat is that I'm signed up to get a 3 gigabit internet service here coming pretty soon. So that'll mean that I have a lot more flexibility, you know, on my internet access than I do now. So maybe that'll help a little bit. We do have live stream channels, of course, and what that is you can put if you're doing live streams, anybody out there does them, then you can put the link to your live stream in that channel, you know, in the live streams channel. I think I've put the link to this live stream in there. I think Maxie does for Radio Chaos, and Chaos Nova does for his streams. And once again, he doesn't stream as much as we do, but when he does put the link in the live streams channel. We do have a fan fiction channel. If you write stories, you know, about Alita, you can put that in the fan fiction channel. I know Lee's got this story that we're going to see. Probably only get through 2 chapters today, because I think these next 2 are pretty long, aren't they, Lee? If I remember correctly. It's chapters, what is it, 7 and 8, I think, something like that.
They're a little over a dozen pages. I think they're like 13, 14 pages each.
Yeah, so we'll see. You know, if it goes smooth, and we can keep going. You know, I don't care. You know, of course, people have to eat, so we won't go 10 chapters. But but anyway, Lee's got his fanfic in there. I've got my fanfic in there. Maxie's got his fanfic in there. Panini Freak's got her fanfic in there, and I think Channel has got her fanfics in there. And, you know, people read these things, you know, so if you're a little worried, if you've written the fanfic and you maybe a little cautious, I don't know if I want to get this out on the wide internet, you know, because people might overly criticize it or whatever your concern might be. You know, you put it in the fanfic channel, let people give you some feedback, you know, and we're all respectful on the Alita Gaming Network. We're not, you know, we're not here to diss anybody, you know, we just want to have fun with this, you know, so. But anyway, if you're doing that, you know, you can put your fanfic in there and we'll read it. You know, we certainly will. If you do artwork or you do videos, you can put that in the user creations channel. If you got something that's off topic from Alita a little bit, or maybe very loosely related to Alita, you can put that in the off topic channel. And we got 3 voice channels. The newest one is the Kansas Bard channel. They're all pretty similar, but in case multiple people want to use different channels and not interrupt each other when they're talking to them, or they're playing a game or something like that, you go to the other channel, you know. And I know Lee, not Lee, but I know Vladi and Smendrick get in that gaming channel, and they were playing RoboCop for a while. You guys still play?
Yeah, not today. Smendrick wasn't around, so I'll leave it till tomorrow if he's around.
But anyway, we have a lot of fun on this channel. It's I haven't checked the membership lately. Last time I checked, about 2 weeks ago, it was only 45 members. But we're not really pushing this, because I think the folks that are on the gaming network, you know, there's my creaky chair going again, Lottie. But anyway, of course,
fix it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm lazy, I guess. You know. But anyway. I get some 3-in-1
do it right now. Let's pause the stream momentarily while Creaky searches WD-40.
So anyway, we got squeaky creaky going on here, I guess. But yeah, so if you can, you know, you join. It doesn't cost anything. You have to have a Discord user name, and of course, you know, that doesn't have to be anything. Gives away your identity. If you want to join. And, you know, you don't want people to know who you are. Of course, you can change your avatar. You don't even have to use your email address you have to have to use your email address to sign in, but you can use whatever username you want, and, you know, basically, you know, keep yourself, you know, kind of incognito, as they would say, if you want to do that. And of course, all you got to do is click on that link you see below our little Chibi Alita mascot there. And it doesn't cost anything to join our channel either. You know, I know Matu or I or Maxie or Angelus, or I see Angelus is out in the chat, probably at work, of course. You know, none of us make any money off of this. This is strictly for fun. You know, we're not doing Alita things I'm not doing Alita things for money anyway. So what is this? Yeah, it's generally advisable to do that, but since my name's been out there for so much on other things, I don't really worry about it too much. You know, I've probably got 3 firewalls and a VPN on my computer, so it'd be pretty tough to crack into it, I guess. But anyway. All right. Well, I guess we can get to it there, Lee, unless you guys had any other thing you wanted to add to the intro there.
I can't think of anything.
It's Rodriguez's birthday, so happy birthday to him.
Oh, happy birthday, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, sir. I'm going to have to tag him on a tweet, I guess.
Yeah,
Not
I
that
could probably do that as well.
you'll see it, but you
I've
know,
only done retweets.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Robert's great. I like his movies. I like that Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I like that. Desperado I liked. I like Sin City. I mean, the guy's a great director. You know, I think he's marvelous myself. But anyway, that's another story. All right, Lee, I guess we're ready for you. If you want to start, I guess, with chapter 7, I think is where we left off with 6 last time, didn't we? And we're going to 7, I suppose.
We should probably do a recap.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
Yeah.
A quick recap of chapter 6. Let me see here. That's not it. Basically, Jason, at the end of that, had a bit of a psychotic breakdown. Although I'm not sure that's quite the right word. He had a bit of a flashback.
I wouldn't call it psychotic, Lee. It's probably just...
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It wasn't really not really the right word. He had some kind of a breakdown. He finally confessed where he's from. Alita didn't believe him. Actually, none of them believed him. Alita more particularly thought that he was up to something, because it's like he claims to be centuries old. He ends up in the only home of, or the home of the only cyborg in the city who's also centuries old, and everything else that's been going on. She's kind of like, something ain't right here. And Jason decides, you know, go fuck yourself. I'm going to go heading out of here and go get myself killed at the gate or something like that. And they decide not to let him do that.
Yeah.
And then he has a bit of a, I guess a flashback would be more of an appropriate term, because when they try to subdue him, Alita grabs his arm and he gets a vision of his arm being crushed in her grip, and he just completely freaks out. Excuse me. So, yeah, it ended with him being drugged, falling unconscious, while freaking out the entire way down. So, continuing on to chapter 7 of Unknown Origin. Dim, dirty yellow light blooms in the darkness as I open my eye. The world begins swinging into something resembling focus. Even as blurry as it is, I recognize the recovery room ceiling. A muted shock penetrates the drug-induced haze I'm waking from as I feel both eyes blink. While I can't see out of it, I can feel an eye moving in what was an empty socket. My hand attempts to come up to get a feel at it to see if it's real, but I'm stopped short. I try again and feel myself constrained by something wrapped tightly around me. Don't try to move yet, Gerhard says from the right side of the bed. Turning to look at her, I see that the monitoring and IV equipment has moved to that side of the room. A glance around reveals no one else present. Still working at the monitor, she tells me, Dr. Ito will be right in. And yes, she glances at me, you have been restrained. A surge of panic hits me, and I try to say something, but all that comes out is a dry, croaking cough. Before you ask, you'll be let out of them, and we're sure you're not going to do something like trying to crawl out into the street naked again. She turns to me and asks, now, how are you feeling? I get no impression of anger, as I was expecting, just warmth and concern. Getting the panic under control, I clear my throat and manage to get out in a hoarse whisper, you're sneaky. Despite the nearsightedness blurring her face, I can hear the smile in her voice as she glances over from the monitor she's adjusting. I can be, when the situation calls for it. In a more serious tone. It seems you suffered some kind of breakdown. Can you remember much of what happened? Distorted memories return, but I can recall most of it clearly enough. In a stronger voice, I was angry, really angry. I decided, I don't know, that I'd had enough of everything. I was leaving. Then you guys grabbed me. When Alita had her hand on my arm, I wince, strong emotions rise up at the memory. It felt like my arm was being ripped apart. I was suddenly back in that street being torn apart. There's the soft, warm sensation of her organic hand on my forearm, just below the restraints wrapping me as she asks, "You can feel that, right?" I nod. "Your arm is fine," she says reassuringly. "From the looks of it, you likely suffered some kind of flashback." She takes her hand away. "As for leaving, it is Dr. Ito's professional opinion that you are in no condition to be roaming the streets. He's going to be keeping you here until you can walk out on your own," his words. I'm not sure what I expected as a reaction, but them keeping me here to continue to care for wasn't it. After taking a moment to process that, I tell her, "Okay, how long am I going to stay tied up?" "Just for a little while longer, until we're sure you aren't going to have another breakdown like that last one." Looking up at her, I consider that for a moment. Heaving a sigh, I say, "All right." Briefly lifting my head a bit to look out the doorway, I can see that some of the windows in the main room, I can see through some of the windows in the main room that it's dark outside. It also gives me a glimpse of the sheet wrapped tightly around me, leaving my forearm exposed, holding me immobile. Across my chest is a strap anchored to the sides of the bed. "How long was I out?" I ask. There's a noticeable hesitation before she answers. "This is the evening of the third day since we sedated you. Due to the drugs that are still wearing off, it takes several seconds for that to sink in." "Shit," I mutter, closing my eyes. 3 more days and they still can't fix me. I'm not sure which possibility is worse, that I'm never going to leave here or that I'll be tossed out on the street with only one arm left when they can't find any solutions. Opening my eyes, I really have 2 of them again? I ask in a pained voice, "Was I really that bad?" She straightens up and takes a deep breath. "Well, you didn't stop screaming until you were unconscious. On the upside, you have 2 eyes again. Dr. Ito put the cybernetic one in while you were out. It's not working, but it uses your body's natural extraocular muscles that controlled your organic eye, so it at least acts like a normal eye." "Yeah," I croak out, glad for the change of subject. I was surprised to feel it in there. Instead of getting clearer as the drugs wore off, my mind seems to be swirling with more confusion. I don't understand." The thought goes unfinished as my mind takes a sharp turn, unable to focus. I try to bring my hand up to rub at my forehead and am rudely reminded of the sheet tightly wrapped around me. I grip my teeth together, attempting to remain calm as anger flares at being restrained. "Good evening, Jason," Dr. Ito says as he enters. "Hope you're feeling better today." He takes a position on the opposite side of my bed from Gerhard. "Sounded like you had a question." I exhale slowly in frustration. "I did. All the doubts and fears swirl around in a maelstrom inside my head. Nothing resembling a coherent thought will form. I can't remember what it was. I can, actually. I just can't find the words to articulate the doubts that still fill my head. I'm swamped with a helpless, sorrowful feeling. There's also this incredible guilt over the stunt I pulled. At the time, it had seemed like such a clear-cut course of action. Now, I'm not even sure what the hell I was thinking. I consider asking to be untied, but I'm fairly sure that my asking isn't going to move that along. He says as he considers me with a thoughtful look. "Has Nurse Gerhard filled you in on your current situation?" "Yes," I answer. There's a growing fear and frustration over how long I'll stay in these restraints. Ito nods. "Good. I want you to know you will be let out of those restraints when I'm certain you aren't going to try something stupid again. Understood?" I close my eyes briefly and swallow again. Close my eyes briefly and swallow the pain as well as the tears that threaten to come with it. "Yes." That voice in the dark of my mind whispers viciously, you just can't seem to stop screwing up, can you?" "If you start acting in a manner that seems dangerous to either yourself or us," Dr. Ito says with professional calm, then for your own safety, I'm going to have to keep you restrained. In a less serious tone, that said, do you think you can refrain from trying to make off with any more of my blankets? Embarrassed and a touch humiliated over being restrained, I stiffly answer, yes. All right then, let's get you out of this. He and Gerhard undo the strap over my chest and carefully but quickly unwrap me from the tightly wound sheet. When they're done, I'm given my glasses and Dr. Ito pulls up a stool to sit on, putting him closer to my level. Now, are you hungry? Can we get you anything? I glance between the two of them. I'm just a little thirsty. Gerhard adjusts my bed to a sitting position and offers me a cup of water, but pulls it back as I go to reach for it. Looking at me sternly, she says, if you throw this at us, you're going right back in those restraints. My face warms in further embarrassment. I look her in the eyes and say quietly, I'm not throwing anything at anyone. She nods and hands the cup to me, and I take a long drink out of it, feeling the cool water wash away the dryness. When I'm done, Dr. Ito asks, now then, how's the new eye feeling? I blink a couple of times, still getting used to the feeling of an eye in a previously empty socket. It feels fine, still can't see out of it. I know, he says with a hint of frustration. We were getting green lights on his diagnostics, but as with your limbs, it's not picking up your own neural signals. He heaves a tired sigh. Still, it's a new eye to fill that socket. Hopefully I can find a reason for why this is happening to you and get it working. Pulling out a small pen light, he leans down. Now, let's have a quick look. He performs a short examination, checking for pain, swelling, or any sign of trouble. Finding none, he has Gerhard hand me my glasses and he retakes his seat on the stool. Aren't you curious to see how it looks, he asks. I close my new eye and gingerly reach up to rub at it, then look over at Ito. Yeah, but I'm also not sure I want to. Nothing to be nervous about, Gerhard says as she hands me a small mirror. It looks fine. I accept the mirror and look into it. Sure enough, she's right. It looks damn near identical to the old one. It might be my imagination, but I think the white is whiter than my old eye. Ito has me turned towards him so he can see for himself. Not seeing a noticeable difference myself, I'm getting the impression that his professional pride took umbrage at the idea that it might not be a perfect match. I turn back to the mirror and look it over for a little longer. It's an uplifting moment seeing myself with two eyes again, even if the new one isn't working yet. It's like a step in the right direction. Crossing his arms over his chest, Ito leans back and gives me a brief appraising look. We still need to finish that talk we started. Before that, however, I'd like to discuss Alita. Pressure begins building inside my head, that feeling of being cornered, trapped. All right, I say without looking at him. I hand the mirror back to Gerhard, who puts it away. When I had her restrain you, it was obvious that something was very wrong. He pauses momentarily as if to gather his thoughts. You told me before that you didn't have a problem with cyborgs. I'm willing to venture a guess that this has changed. That's concerning for a number of reasons, not the least of which of what this can mean for your mental state, but also because this isn't just a clinic, it's also a home, one in which Alita also lives. And if your problems become too disruptive, he throws his hands up in a what can I do gesture. We're simply not equipped to deal with severe psychological problems for an extended period of time. Somberly, I nod and say, understood. Whispering in the back of my head, now you have a line to cross. How long before you end up on the wrong side of it? Self-destructive thoughts begin spinning through my mind. I momentarily squeeze my eyes shut and rub my forehead as if that'll rub them out of my head. All right then, he says, looking almost as unhappy about the situation as I feel. Alita will be returning soon, and it'll be dinner time. Do you think you can handle being in the same room with her? Trying to sound more confident than I feel, I answer, yeah, I think I can do that. Good. I know you haven't had much appetite these past days, but putting you under as often as I have, your body needs real food. So I'd still like you to try and eat something as well. It takes a moment for my brain to generate a coherent response. I'll try. As Ito moves to get up, I ask, just out of curiosity, does Alita still think I'm trying to run some kind of scam or something? Rising to his feet, Ito glances at Gerhed. None of us are entirely sure what to think, honestly. He loosely crosses his arms, looking thoughtful for a moment. He continues with some hesitation. Alita, she upset the balance of power in this city. It's made her some powerful enemies. He shifts a little uncomfortably. I'm afraid this, combined with the reckless actions of one rather underhanded reporter and an overly obsessed fan, has made her a bit apprehensive. Please believe me when I say she doesn't really mean you any harm. She's very protective of the people in her life, and this whole situation is just, he seems to struggle for the right term. Insane, I finish for him, and he nods in agreement. Yeah, that does sound pretty intense. I stare off into space, my mind nearly spinning its wheels, trying to stay engaged when I just want to curl up and disappear. I briefly close my eyes and shake my head to clear it. I heard rumors that someone she cared about was killed by these enemies. That true? There's a lengthy silence in which the look on Ito and Gerhard's faces indicates a silent debate going on. Finally, Ito answers, yes. In fact, the people she's angered are also responsible for a good deal of suffering and death in this city. A feeling of alarm brings my eyebrows down and together. I look back and forth between the two of them. Sounds like I'm the one that should be apprehensive. The situation's a bit complicated, Gerhed says, but you're as safe here as anywhere else in the city. I stare at her for a second. Holding up the stump of my left arm, I say with a good dose of sarcasm, yeah, that's reassuring. Putting her hands on her hips, she says with a shrug, sorry, nothing else we can do. Then the two of them leave to deal with other clinic-related matters. It isn't long before Alita returns, and I'm prepared to join them for dinner. They set me into the wheelchair and put a blanket over my lap. Then it's into the kitchen, where Alita sits at the table with an empty plate in front of her. She actually smiles upon seeing me. How are you feeling? She asks. Not having expected her to be all that friendly towards me after my recent breakdown, I fumble a terse, been better. Ito and Gerhed serve up dinner and then get themselves something to eat. They exchange a few words while doing so, and from the sound of it, I learn that Gerhed doesn't normally stay for dinner. Since my arrival, she's practically been living here now in order to help with my care. My depression grabs hold of that and gnaws at it, making me feel guilt that I'm such a disruption in their lives. Ito takes a seat to my left, setting a glass of water down in front of me, while Gerhed takes the chair to my right, placing a plate of food in front of me. I thank the doctor and nurse as I settle in. Letting my gaze fall to the small amount of food on my plate, a wave of guilt compels me to say, I feel like I should apologize to all of you for the way I've acted. My mind blanks on me, as it seems to so often when I become acutely aware of people staring at me. I don't know, I finish quietly. None of this feels real. Everyone's quiet for a few heartbeats, then Gerhed gently pats my arm. Try to focus on getting some food in you. You haven't really had much to eat since you got here, adding with a faint teasing tone, and I think you're starting to worry the doctor. Sincerity in her eyes and the warmth in her voice seems to break through the isolation. I begin feeling more grounded, and I can't help but smile and chuckle. Yeah, I guess I should. I let out a deep breath as I silently give thanks for the food. Dinner goes rather quietly. I listen as the others talk, mostly about some minor goings-on in the neighborhood. There's mention of some friend of Alita's by the name of Kiyomi, who is apparently involved in salvage work, procuring parts for Alita and her teammates. From the conversation, I pick up that it's Kiyomi who gave Alita a ride out to the Sheffield's farm. At one point, I drop my food into my lap when my right hand fails to do exactly what I want and tips my fork a little too much. It's such a minor thing, but I experience a momentary flash of rage, almost flinging my plate into the nearby wall. Gerhed seems to pick up on my sudden shift in emotional state and asks, "Everything okay, Jason?" After carefully picking the food out of my lap, I glare at the fork now sitting on my plate and grate out with more anger than I'd intended. It's fine, it's just that I'm I used to be left-handed. I keep my focus on my plate, not wanting to see their expressions, still fighting to calm myself. Thankfully, they don't pursue the matter. Despite not having much appetite, I finish my food relatively quickly. The dishes are cleared away, and I feel the mood in the room shift a bit. Knowing that there's going to be yet another interrogation in which my answers will be met by more disbelief, I wait, shoulders hunched protectively. Gerhard and Ito retake their seats, but Alita leaves the room. She quickly returns carrying my old electric razor and smartphone. As she takes her seat, the items are placed in front of her, near the center of the table. My wallet is added to the small pile. I stare at my belongings, wondering what's to come. Ito takes note of the electrical plug on my razor, picking it up for a closer look. Well, this doesn't look right. What sort of socket is this supposed to fit in? Kiyomi and I wonder the same thing, Alita says. She turns her attention to me and holds up a small plastic device. Is this something you rigged up? It looks like an adapter. Yes, I answer. I had to make my own electrical adapter for the outlets on the farm, but I couldn't get anything to work even after I took the differing voltages and such into account. Alita picks up my smartphone and turns it around in her hands before showing it to Ito and Gerhard. Kiyomi also spotted something missing from these items, Alita comments. Gerhard carefully takes the phone from her and looks it over with a perplexed expression. She says, "There's no Star of Zalem." She looks over at me. "You didn't make these yourself, did you?" With a confused glance around at the three of them, I shake my head. No, I can't make something like that. Why? Ito picks up my electric razor and turns it over in his hands, studying it intently. Everything the factory puts out is stamped with a symbol of Zalem, a stylized four-pointed star. He gestures with my razor. These devices were obviously manufactured, so if there's no factory mark on them, he carefully puts the razor back down on the table. Where did they come from? If they're remanufactured by one of the little privately owned outfits, why would they make them with electrical plugs that don't fit any outlets commonly in use? Kiyomi looked them over and didn't find any recognizable maker's marks on them, Alita says, poking at my razor with an index finger. Her gaze flicks up from the razor to me. Wishing I could come up with something to say that they would believe, I merely stare at the razor and wallet sitting in the middle of the table. The three of them sit and watch me for a moment, possibly waiting for an answer I can't find. Finally, Alita speaks. Based on what I've seen so far, I'm willing to believe that you really aren't from around here. That's not to say I'm convinced that you're some sort of time traveler, however. She stares at me intently as if to gauge my reaction, her expression serious, but not unfriendly. Ito nods. I'm inclined to agree. Ito nods. I'm inclined to agree, in light of what I've witnessed so far. He turns and looks at me over the top of his glasses. I also have to agree that your claim of being centuries old is hard to accept. Sighing heavily, I ask, okay then, so what now? I glance around the table at them. At least I'm not being viewed as some sort of con artist or crazy. I don't even want to think about what they do to people here that would normally be institutionalized back where I'm from. Gerhard holds up my phone. Does this thing store data? Could there be something on it that might prove... She shrugs slightly. Anything? I consider it for a moment before answering. It has a memory card, but all I ever did with it was take a few pictures while figuring out how to use some of its functions. I suppose the operating system could tell you something, but you'll have to figure out how to get it working. The battery's been dead for months, and I haven't been able to get it to recharge. If you can... How about I do that right now? Ito interjects. It shouldn't take me more than a few minutes, and if it can tell us something, so much the better. By all means, I say, and Gerhard hands it over to him. After he's gone, Gerhard offers tea to Alita and I. We both accept. After putting on some water to heat, the questions resume. Pardon. Opening my wallet, Alita asks about some of the contents, specifically the ones with my picture on them. The driver's license is pretty self-explanatory. The only other picture-bearing card is my Veterans Affairs ID. I try to keep it brief. That one allows me to go to any Veterans Affairs clinic in the country. Well, my country, and usually get help with most problems that might pop up now and again. What sort of problems did they usually help you with? Gerhard asks. Giving a vague, dismissive gesture, I answer medical problems, mostly, but sometimes other little emergencies that might crop up. Did it cost much? Typically didn't cost me anything. Gerhard's expression clearly conveys her doubt in my claim. Alita turns the card over in her hands as she asks, "What does it mean, you being a veteran?" She looks up at me curiously. "Of what exactly?" "I'm a military veteran, U.S. Air Force." I still feel a twinge of pride, despite how my tour of service ended. I doubt it'll mean anything to them, though. Alita's eyes widen in surprise. "You were a soldier?" I find this startling, not just because I didn't think her eyes could get that much bigger, but because it seems like she actually believes me when I was certain she wouldn't. Before I can respond, Ito sticks his head around the corner and interrupts. "Gerhard, Alita, could you bring Jason here?" He goes to leave, but quickly turns back. "Oh, and his razor, too." Then he disappears from sight. Alita shares a brief look of confusion with Gerhard before picking up the razor and heading into the main room, followed by Gerhard pushing me in the wheelchair. We make our way past the movable barrier into the operating theater to see Ito standing on the other side of the operating table in front of a small bank of monitors. Even from my low vantage point, I'm able to see my smartphone lying on that table, innards exposed. A thin cable with multiple tiny clips is attached to various points on the phone's interior components. Although I can't read what's on the monitors, I can tell enough to know they aren't showing much activity. We come around to Ito's side of the table, and Alita holds out my razor to him. While Ito takes the razor with a quick thank you, Gerhard looks over the monitors and asks aloud, "I don't understand. Weren't you running some sort of diagnostic on that phone?" Ito, having laid the razor on the table next to the device in question, looks over at her. "I have the diagnostic running now. Everything's hooked up, as you can see." With a glance at the monitors, "This is what I wanted to show you." Alita comments, "Nothing showing up." Without looking up from the connecting wires to the plug of the razor, he says, "Yes." Oh, I'm sorry. Without looking up from connecting wires to the plug of the razor, he says, "Yes, I should be getting all sorts of readings. But that isn't all I wanted you to see." He glances over at his nurse. "Gerhard, if you would, take a look at the circuitry inside that phone." Both Alita and Gerhard move to the table and lean over the phone to get a better look at it. I sit quietly, unsure as to where all this is leading and expecting the worst. "It looks kind of odd," Alita remarks. Gerhard gently lifts the device a hand's breadth for a closer look before saying, "It looks ancient. Look at the size of some of these components. They're huge." She sets the phone back down and looks over at Ito in disbelief. "But the scans came back with nothing at all." Ito presses some keys on the keyboard and the monitors before answering, "Exactly." He gestures to a screen with an interface border and otherwise blank image. "Just like with Jason here." He quickly presses another set of keys and says in a near mutter, "It's the same with the razor." Alita looks down at the phone and back over at Ito. "So, wait, Jason and his property are invisible to your scanners?" Ito takes a deep breath and lets it out before turning to her. "Not strictly invisible. The imaging system is picking up something, but it could easily be mistaken for background noise or even an anomalous signal." He gestures towards the items on the table. "I tried to scan that phone before opening it just to be sure I wouldn't break anything." He once again gestures at the blank monitor, showing only the interface border, and got nothing useful. So I carefully opened it to hook it up for some scans and noticed the rather primitive components. He steps closer to the table, crossing his arms as he looks down at the phone. "I'd have to take an even closer look, but I'm willing to wager that none of this was built using the nanotech systems we would normally see." He glances up as he points closely at some of the phone's interior. "Compared to what we normally use, you shouldn't be able to see most of these circuits without at least a microscope. Not if it were made by the factory, at any rate. If this thing really is just a phone, the innards shouldn't be taking up so much space. And look here at the size of this battery. It's massive for something like this. A battery that size should have held power for a lot longer than it apparently did. As Gerhard said, it's ancient, or it looks that way. He fiddles a bit with the razor as he continues. Just like with this razor just now, I tried running a number of signals through it to try and get some kind of readings. There was absolutely no response. He shrugs. There's nothing on imaging systems or, well, just nothing. As with Jason, it's as if there's nothing there to get a reading on. I experience an unsettling moment when all three of them turn and look at me in unison. Feeling suddenly profoundly small and exposed, I blurt out, I don't even know what's going on here. It's all right, Jason, Ito says as he disconnects the razor. I believe you. This is just strange. At this point, Ito asks Alita to take me out of the operating theater so he and Gerhard can deal with studying the two devices more closely. Alita obliges and wheels me out into the living area. Once I'm parked near a worn but comfortable-looking chair, she takes a seat on the couch across from me. She looks over in the direction of the operating theater for a couple of moments as if thinking. I watch her as she does so. I try not to stare, but I can't help agonizing over where things will go now. I had no idea anything like this was going to happen. Why is all of this happening at all, for that matter? Finally, she leans forward and hands me my wallet. Here, you should have this back. Without meaning to, I hesitate before taking it from her outstretched hand. Thanks, I say unhappily. I tuck the wallet under a thigh, beneath the blanket, and look back over at her. I'm able to bring myself to look her in the eyes as I say, I don't know what's happening to me. A clumsy attempt at articulating my ignorance about what all of this means or why any of it is even occurring. Her steady gaze is unsettling. She chews lightly at her lower lip before responding. I know. I can tell you're just as much in the dark as the rest of us. And I'm sorry about getting so angry the way I did. It's just been... She stares off into space as if momentarily lost in thought. I know, I say, before thinking better of saying anything. Having done so, I decide I'd better press on, but now that I have her attention. Ida was telling me that my heartbeat stutters as my mind trips over something appropriate to say. He was telling me that you've had a pretty rough time of things. I'm sorry to hear that. I close my eyes and hold my breathing as I try to steady myself against a spike of anxiety. I'm hit with a flurry of images, of her becoming enraged at me for saying anything, and then doing to me what I've seen her do to her opponents on the motorball track. I appreciate that, I hear her say softly. I open my eyes and look up to see her, not enraged or even angry, but with a pained look in her eyes and a sad little smile on her lips. Is this really the merciless killing machine I've been afraid of this whole time? Having seen what she can do, I know the answer is definitely yes. But now I can plainly see that it's not my imagination. There really is a completely different side to her, a very human side. I'm not sure why exactly. Maybe it's that pain in her eyes, but I'm compelled to say, if it makes you feel any better, I gesture with the stump of my arm. I've become pretty well acquainted with rough times of my own. I attempt something approaching a smile, still unsure how to act around her. How far is too far? How easily angered is she? How easily does she hurt others when she gets angry? Still too many unknowns for me to really feel safe in her presence. With a slight tilt of her head, she asks, Are you trying to cheer me up? Her smile is no longer sad, but faintly amused. Feeling a little embarrassed, I awkwardly shrug and say, Possibly. Hesitantly, I try to explain. I don't really like seeing others in pain. Another awkward shrug. It's something that's almost gotten me into trouble more than once over the years. As if of its own accord, my gaze falls to what's left of my legs, and I add rather sadly, Guess it finally did. I hadn't meant to voice that last part. She looks at me for a moment before softly asking, You really don't regret it? It's the second time she's asked me that. This time there's no hardened edge to her. No, I don't. My eyes tear up as I'm unable to stop myself from adding in a pained voice. Really would like to walk again, though. I try and fail to smile. Instead, I wipe my eyes and take a deep, steadying breath. You will, she says firmly. If anyone can figure this out, it's Ito. I nod, though I'm unable to share her optimism. After a short stretch of silence, she asks, "Would you mind if I asked you some questions?" Sighing, I say with a half-hearted attempt at joviality, "Well, it would appear I've got some room in my schedule, so ask away." Her smile slowly fades as she becomes more serious. "Before, when I asked you how you lost your family, you were being evasive, weren't you?" I look off to the side at the empty spot on the couch next to her as I think about my answer. "A bit, yes." Pain tightens my throat. "I suppose it would be more accurate to say they lost me." She draws her legs up, resting her feet on the couch cushion. She hugs her knees to herself. "How so?" A wave of homesickness hits and I blink away new tears. "Look, I know you don't believe me about..." "Let's say," she interrupts firmly, "for the sake of argument, I do believe you. What do you mean they lost you?" I draw in a deep breath to loosen up the constricting feeling in my chest, my gaze wandering around as if looking for an excuse not to answer. "Because of how I got here." When she doesn't say anything for a few seconds, I look at her to see her nod encouragingly at me. So I hesitantly go on, struggling to find each word. One second, I was driving down a country road. The sun was shining in the sky. Then there was a flash of white, blinding white, and the next second I'm running my truck into a small grove of bamboo or something like it. It's the middle of the night, and I'm in a jungle. With more prompting from her, I finally come out and tell her the details of what happened, including the events of the day that led to me being out on the road when an anomaly hit. When I'm done, I feel exposed, as if I've just given away some big secret I shouldn't have. A spike of heartache stabs through me, and almost involuntarily I say in a pained voice, "The last thing she knew was that I was on my way to see the new house." Before I know it, I'm blinking back tears. For all I know, she thinks I abandoned her. In a quiet, reassuring voice, she says to me, "I'm sure she doesn't think that. Wherever she is, she probably misses you terribly." I manage a faint smile as I nod in acknowledgement. Vanessa and I had known for each other for years, over half our lives. Certainly she wouldn't think I'd just run off on her. Stare off out one of the windows into the dimly lit night. As I do, Alita quietly sits there hugging her knees to her chest, a faraway look in her eyes. Then her focus snaps over to me and she slowly lowers her feet to the floor. "If this vehicle is really out there in the jungle, could you guide us to it?" Her question catches me flat-footed and I hesitate awkwardly in answering. Yeah, if it hasn't been found or anything, it should still be there. Even if it isn't, there's a 260-some meter diameter circle of pine trees and a strip of old road that came here with me." She cocks her head to one side and gives me a puzzled look. "Why didn't you say anything about this sooner? That seems like it might be kind of important." "Because none of you were believing anything else I was saying." I sigh. Besides, too late, I think better of saying anything further. There really isn't any point in voicing my fears. When I don't continue, Alita leans forward and prompts me. "Besides what?" After a moment of indecision, I relent. Slowly shaking my head, I tell her, "What if we go out there and there's nothing there? What if it turns out that all I really am is just..." I shrug deeply. "Just crazy or something." I start getting lightheaded. I know I probably shouldn't keep going, but it feels like the pressure in my skull is squeezing the words out. What if I'm just some guy who had a psychotic break or something? Maybe I hallucinated my entire life before a year ago. She slides off the couch and drops to one knee next to me, putting a hand on my shoulder. "Hey," she says. I stop and look over at her, surprised more by her touching me than her exclamation. Her metallic hand is surprisingly warm through the fabric of the gown. "How about we take this one step at a time, all right?" she asks. With a nod, I close my eyes and pull in a calming breath, slowly letting it back out. I try not to let it get to me, but my mind is keenly aware of the warmth of her hand on my shoulder and of the horrific damage she's no doubt capable of inflicting. She's about to say something more when Gerhat interrupts. Stepping around the barrier and closing the OR, the nurse gestures back towards the operating theater. "Alita, would you bring Jason back here, please?" Her expression tells me nothing. Alita maneuvers a wheelchair around the barrier and parks me near the foot of the operating table, moving to stand next to me. Gerhard rejoins Ito at the table as he's reassembling my phone. I glance over the monitors, but of course am unable to decipher the information being displayed. It actually doesn't look like much has changed. After he's done with my smartphone, Ito raises his glasses onto the top of his head and runs his hands over his face as if to wipe away the weariness that is momentarily visible there. I wait patiently, afraid to ask what he found. Ito puts his hands on the table and leans on them. Well, he finally says, that was the damnedest thing I've ever seen. He stares at the phone on the table. What did you find? Alita asks him, while Gerhard gathers up my razor and phone to hand them to me. I accept the items with a nod. Ito straightens up before answering. From what we could tell, electrical energy isn't interacting with these devices, as in it's not crossing some kind of boundary between the actual device and the testing equipment connected to it. It just stops right where the testing leads stop. Looking directly at me, he adds, if this is holding true for you, it would explain why those cybernetic implants aren't interfacing with your nervous system. For some reason, it seems that you and anything you own are reacting to electrical energy as well as magnetic fields in a way I've never seen before. Since my medical scanners are based on magnetic resonance technology, that seems to be why you aren't showing up on them. Just so you know, you're damned lucky you didn't try to get an ID, considering that a full medical scan is required. That would have likely put you in a world of trouble. I stare at him blankly for a moment, trying to comprehend what he's saying. Okay, I say slowly. So, any idea what's causing it? I try not to dwell on how many pieces I might have been carved into for experimentation at the factory to discover this little mystery. He throws his hands up in a helpless shrug. No idea whatsoever. Alita glances down at me with a worried expression. There's got to be something you can do to fix this. Again, Ito shrugs, but this time it's Gerhard that answers. We don't even know what we're seeing. We only know that something strange is going on. What that is exactly is still a complete mystery. She glances at me with an apologetic look. Ito breathes a heavy sigh and says, if I can't figure out what this is we're dealing with, what the cause is, I won't be able to find a way around it. He adjusts his glasses back over his eyes. I'm sorry, Jason. I wish I had better news. Not knowing what to say, I merely nod and drop my gaze to the floor. The only thought running through my head is that I'll never walk again. Part of me thinks I should be feeling something, but I don't seem to feel anything at the moment. Well, I say quietly into the momentary silence. Shit. I can't seem to do anything but sit there and stare at the floor. My body tenses up and anger flares when I feel Alita's hand on my shoulder again and hear her say, we'll figure something out. Don't worry. The reassurance in her voice is anything but reassuring. Will we? I think angrily. And how much danger are you in of slowly starving to death in some back alley because you can't work to feed yourself? Despite the anger, I resist the urge to snap at her or shake her hand off, knowing that it'll just be taking my anger out on someone who doesn't deserve it. Taking her hand away, she says, why don't you tell them what you told me? I glance over at her. She leans back against the edge of the operating table. Taking a deep breath to calm my anger, and not quite succeeding, I recount my arrival yet again. When I'm done, I try not to think of what it'll be like to be homeless out on the streets. It starts to feel harder to pull air into my lungs. If we go out there, Alita says to Ito, we might be able to find clues to what's going on here. Jason said he can lead us back to this place. Ito stares off in the distance for a time with a thoughtful look. Well, it's not as if we have any other leads. But how is Jason going to get back into the city without documentation? I'm pretty sure he only managed to avoid closer scrutiny before because he was in a vehicle that was on what was effectively factory business. The fact that he stayed away from the city like he did certainly helped. Leave that to me, Alita tells him firmly. I think Kiyomi might be able to help with that. Ito nods absently. We'll probably need her to give us a ride out to this location as well. You be sure to let her know to keep this to herself. Alita nods. Absolutely. Ito quietly clears his throat. You still have an upcoming game to think about as well. Those new parts still haven't been calibrated to your system. Alita replies in mild exasperation. I haven't forgotten. We can get started on that tomorrow. Ado nods and turns to me. In the meantime, I should probably give the Sheffields a call. It's a bit late, but I should let them know that we're still having problems with your treatment. I stare blankly at the phone in my lap. Yeah, I mutter vacantly. My mind is spinning in circles trying to make sense of everything that's happening. While I grapple with the specter of homelessness in Iron City, among other things, the others hold a quick conversation before Ito heads off to make the call to my now certainly former employers. Gerhead goes about cleaning up while Alita takes me out to the living area again. As I'm being wheeled, I experience another seemingly irrational flash of anger at the thought that I even have to be wheeled around. That anger quickly dies to ashes as depression sucks the life out of it. Is this what the rest of my life is going to be, I wonder morosely. No, after they decide they can't fix me, there will be no more reason for me to stay here, and then things will get much, much worse. I've already decided there's no way in hell I'm going to slowly starve to death, forgotten in some back alley. If it comes to that, it's a simple enough matter to feign some level of normalcy, get them to lower their guard, then get hold of something dangerous. I'm sure there's plenty of drugs around here that would fit the bill. Alita interrupts my ruminations as she takes a seat on the couch. You all right? She asks, her expression openly concerned. I look at her, unable to really focus on her. I don't know, I answer mechanically, and with more honesty than intended. I take hold of my phone and hold it face up as I rest my hand in my lap. I'm still having trouble processing what Ito just told me. Did that anomaly do something to this device, to me? If so, what did it do? Is there some way to undo it? A tap on the wheelchair's armrest brings me back to reality. I realize with a start that Alita had asked me something. I look over, a little disoriented. Sorry, what? She leans back in her seat, an odd expression on her almost doll-like features. I was just asking, were you really a soldier? I nod as I look down at my smartphone. Yeah. What was it like? There's something a little off about the way she asks. A flash of irritability nearly drives me to snap at her. Why do you care? When my mind finally focuses on her face. The odd expression, the tone of voice. It occurs to me she might not be asking out of curiosity. She might be trying to keep me talking, keep me occupied with something other than dwelling on my problems. Able to more clearly see the concern on her face, I close my eyes and take a deep breath, pushing the anger down. After slowly letting the breath go, I open my eyes and answer her. Not all that interesting, honestly. I was a mechanic. I worked on generators and stuff, the kinds used to power aircraft when they were parked on the ground for maintenance. She looks faintly surprised at my answer. You never fought in battle? I shake my head. No, I wasn't a combat trooper. I was support personnel. I've known quite a few soldiers who had seen combat, though. She nods in thoughtful fashion. If you don't mind my asking, did you join knowing you wouldn't fight? Taking a moment, trying to collect my thoughts from an uncooperative mind, I respond, no, it was the military, so some sort of fighting was kind of expected at some point. I had it drilled into me all through basic training that there was always the risk of combat. We were told stories about cooks, mechanics, even administrative personnel who ended up in battlefield conditions, sometimes without warning when a position was overrun. I pause for thought, then continue. I joined mainly just to serve my nation, try to do something useful with my life. While I was in, war ended up breaking out, the first Iraq war. But even then, I wasn't experienced enough. I shrug offhandedly. There were so many more support personnel than combat-trained soldiers that they could afford to be picky about the experience level of support types. Without really thinking, I don't think I was much older than you when I joined up. Remembering that she's a cyborg with an artificial face, I amend that. Well, assuming you're about as old as you look at any rate. With an unexpected hint of humor, she responds with, You already forgot? I am 300 years old. Her comment and the memory of first hearing about that clears my mind somewhat. I narrow my eyes a little and ask, Seriously? You're really that old? With all seriousness, she nods. I am. Ito found my core lying out in the scrap heap. My life support system had put me into some kind of stasis. Recalling my own claim to being several hundred years old, I refrained from making any smart-ass comments and instead asked, "Why the hell are you lying out in the scrap heap?" I'm only passingly familiar with the giant pile of scrap and garbage that pours out of the bottom of Zalem into the middle of Iron City. From what I've heard, it's a favorite spot for scavengers and all sorts to dig through in the hopes of finding something valuable. She gets a faraway look in her eyes. I've lost almost all of my memories from that time. All I really remember is I was fighting in that last Great War. I was involved in the attack on Zalem. I can only guess that I must have ended up buried in the rubble at some point, too damaged to continue fighting. I guess I just stayed buried for all that time. My mind, having freed itself from the enervating effects of depression during this conversation, now works its way through this little revelation. Unsure how to approach the question of her memory loss, I decide to avoid that for now. Gesturing over my shoulder with the phone in the vague direction of the floating city, I ask, "You were involved in an attack on that Zalem? The glorified gilded frisbee hanging out there?" She lets out a little chuckle at my description. Had never heard it described like that, but yes, that Zalem. I was part of a Martian assault force that attacked it centuries ago. I immediately have to double take at that. Wait, what? Uncertainty at what I just heard causes my eyebrows to come down as I look at her more directly. Did you say Martian? She looks at me a little askance. Yes. Is that a problem? No problem. It's just that, well, you were seriously part of a Martian attack force. Yes, I'm Martian, she answers back with more amusement than annoyance. I lean back heavily in the wheelchair, the implications of this playing through my head. Floating cities and space elevators, cyborgs and nanotech, and now this. Holy shit, I mutter loudly. They actually did it. It's her turn to lower her eyebrows in confusion. Did what? What is it? With a quick intake of breath, I refocus on her. They colonized another planet. They actually colonized a whole other world. Before I know it, I'm practically grinning at her as I say excitedly, "You're from a different planet. That is amazing." Even after everything that's happened, hearing out that they really colonized another world brings on a sense of wonder that I hadn't expected. That sort of thing was still in the realm of science fiction where I'm from. Noticing that she's smiling broadly at me, I suddenly find myself feeling self-conscious. My circumstances crash in on me and my excitement fades. Feeling suddenly embarrassed at my outburst, I look down in a vain attempt at hiding my face. Awkwardly, I half mutter, "So, yeah, you're not an Earth native. That's interesting." Brows furrowed, she leans forward the slightest bit. "You don't need to be embarrassed. It was nice seeing the way you talked about it." She leans back again, her expression friendly. "The way your face lit up, it's obviously of great interest to you." The awkwardness and embarrassment largely fade. I've always had a bit of a love affair with space travel and the idea of visiting other worlds. Used to dream about it constantly when I was a kid. "Really? I think that's nice," she says, her eyes alight with a very human warmth. My discomfort melts away in the face of her kindness. We sit and talk for a while longer, mostly me asking her about what little she does remember once I work up the courage to approach the subject. After all, she's not going to believe anything about my past, so I leave it alone. Among the questions I steer clear of approaching with her, what was combat like, and did you ever kill anyone? I learned early on in life, never ask a combat veteran those questions. If they volunteer it, fine, but never bring up those topics yourself. Besides, I already know the answer to that second question. Among the things I learn about her is that she was some kind of elite soldier called a berserker, a kind of special forces unit from the sound of it. Among the places she's fought was Earth's moon, and she doesn't remember what it was like to have an organic body. I look at her with open interest. "So you've been a full conversion cyborg your whole life?" Almost by habit, my mind defaults to an old fictional cyberpunk term. After giving me a funny look, she corrects me. "We call it total replacement, not full conversion, and I don't know. Maybe. I don't remember a time in my life when I had a human body, at least not yet. Maybe someday those memories will come back to me." Pang of sympathy compels me to say something, but not knowing what would be appropriate, I keep my mouth shut. From the sounds of it, she has retrograde amnesia. Vanessa had learned a little about this sort of thing when she studied as a nurse, and what little I remember from when she talked about it, it's a condition that's tricky as hell. to say nothing of its strange effects, leaving the sufferer with the most basic knowledge intact, but no memory of actual events or people from before its onset. Thoughts of what's happened to her mind turn my focus to this incredible cyborg body of hers. Though it looks like a sleek and mechanical version of a human body, its function is effectively a human-shaped weapons platform of otherworldly technology. Stronger, faster, tougher. Considering my limited understanding of the way technology has advanced in the past, I suspect her skin could turn small arms fire. Bringing the focus back to her, I ask, so this, I gesture at her body, is original Martian technology? She nods affirmative. Recalling her being found by Ito, I inquire, but it's not your original body? With a shake of her head, no, my original was no doubt destroyed, considering the condition my core was in. However, this one seems to be the exact same kind of body. I found it in an old wrecked warship that had crashed out in the Badlands. It had a still functioning stasis storage device on it that was holding this one. There was room for several others, but this was the only one left. What remained of the ship's systems recognized some kind of code in my cyber core, and I was able to access it. I can't help but stare at her in amazement. What, a stasis field? With a faint smile, she nods. Hold up. There's a wrecked Martian warship out there with a working stasis field on it? Seriously. I'm nearly incredulous. A working stasis field generator is out there somewhere, and they just left it like it's a broken down car. But then maybe it's more dangerous to go messing with it. It is an old military wreck. Her response is colored with quiet laughter. Yes, is that really so interesting? Well, yeah. Without thinking, I gesture with my residual arm. I mean, sure, it's probably no big deal to you, but to me, that sort of thing was just a vague theory. I mean, to put something in stasis, that requires screwing with the flow of time itself. I can't even imagine the kind of power that would be required for that. Memories of all kinds of old sci-fi stories and articles out of science magazines flow rapidly through my head. That kind of stuff is, I flail in an attempt to quantify it. That's some real Arthur C. Clarke level shit right there. Her eyebrows snap together and her head tips just slightly to one side in confusion. I don't follow. Feeling a level of excitement I hadn't experienced in what seems like forever, I explain. Arthur C. Clarke was a science fiction writer, among other things. I think he was the one who coined the phrase, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Eyes sparkling with amusement, she asks in a vaguely teasing tone, you think a stasis field is magic? With a note of mock irritation, I retort, that's not what that means. More seriously, I add, but with how far beyond my understanding it probably is, it might as well be. Well, if it's that interesting to you, maybe I could take you out there one day to see it, after Ito's tracked down a solution to the cybernetics problem. My good mood evaporates. Despite my attempt to hold on to it, my smile fades. Yeah. I lower my gaze back to the dead phone in my hand. As if the words won't be kept in, I say quietly, if I can't get cybernetics, I won't be able to work. If I can't do that, I close my eyes and shake my head, unable to voice the next part. A thought goes to my head. I'd probably be better off if they just let me die. Would have saved people a whole lot of trouble. We're interrupted by Ito and Gerhard coming over to join us. Nice to see the two of you getting along, Ito comments with a slight smile as he sits down next to Alita. Gerhard takes the chair next to me. I think we're making progress, Alita replies cheerfully with a sidelong glance in my direction. He seems more at ease with being around a cyborg. Trying to get back into a lighter mood, I add in, and she seems to find me tolerable. I try to smile, but can't quite manage it. At least the remark elicits a smile from the others. Ito nods. The Sheffields will be coming by to see you tomorrow, he says with an upbeat tone. Alita looks at me and remarks, that might be nice to see some familiar faces. I finally manage something approaching a smile. Yeah, it'll be nice to see him again. For some reason, the idea of them visiting brings on a feeling of foreboding. Maybe because they're likely going to have to cut me loose after all the time I've been away. Things are already too tight over there, and they can't afford to be short-handed for long. A part of me clings to the hope that it is just a visit. I sit back and listen as the others go on to discuss plans for a trip out to my truck, only stepping in when asked about some detail or other. Time it'll take to get there, where it's at, what the terrain's like, get hammered out. First, however, Ito states, Alita's team has an upcoming game in a few days. Once that's out of the way, we'll have some free time to pursue this little outing. Feeling a glimmer of talkativeness, I ask Alita, Loretta ever regale you with her views on your being forced to restart in third league? With a quiet chuckle, Alita says, she did, in fairly colorful language, too. She's convinced it's somehow to get back at me for wrecking factory property. She might be right. Her eyes get a hard edge and she adds with a touch of anger, but if the factory thought that would stop me, they were dead wrong. It barely even slowed you down, Ito says with obvious pride. At least the team they assigned you was proving to be a fine bunch of players. Alita nods, her eyes still showing a hint of anger. Even so, I don't think more than one or two of them are going to be suitable to be carried on into the championship league. I'm betting that you're looking forward to being able to choose your own team, Gerhard asks. Letting out a tired sigh, Alita says grouchily, very. It's getting tiresome having the factory dictate so much, even down to who I can team with. Be nice to have the freedom they afford First League. After that, conversation winds down and everyone gets ready to turn in. Ito turns to me before heading upstairs. Oh, Jason, I'm going to want to do a few more tests tomorrow. I know we really didn't learn much tonight, but I don't want to stop digging into this just because we've hit a dead end. Takes off his glasses and rubs at his eyes. I'd also like to apologize again, he says with audible weariness. I really just don't know what to make of all this, but I am going to get you fixed up somehow. With a tired shrug, I tell him, you don't need to apologize. You've already done more than you needed to. I let out a low sigh as I run my hand through my hair. I feel so very worn out from the constant anger, fear, and depression. Struck by a feeling of lightheadedness and unreality, as if the world is slowly separating from me, I quietly say, maybe I should be the one apologizing. Seems like I'm just causing you guys a lot of trouble. I clamp my jaw shut, suddenly fighting back tears once again. A deep breath helps me hold them off. Having taken a spot behind me in preparation of wheeling me back to my room, I feel Gerhard put a hand firmly on my shoulder. That's enough, she says with stern gentleness. You haven't done anything wrong, so don't worry about that. Helping people in your position is the whole reason for this clinic to even exist, okay? With an effort, I hold back the pain, though it causes my throat to tighten up, silencing my voice. I take another deep breath and nod. Alita and Ito bid me good night, and I manage a small wave back as I'm taken back to my room. After making sure I don't need anything more, Gerhard wishes me a good night, turns down the light, and leaves. As I lay there trying to bring some semblance of order to this sudden emotional chaos, I hear the two women quietly talking in the other room. Just when it seemed like he was doing all right, Alita remarks quietly. Isn't there anything else we can do for him? Not really, I'm afraid, Gerhard answers her softly. He's not like you, hun. You go through something like this and you seem to bounce right back. Almost as soon as it's over. For regular people, these sorts of wounds can leave deep scars that last a long time. Sometimes even a lifetime. Add this mental illness on top of that, and an already difficult fight can become that much harder. There's quiet for a moment, then she asks Alita, what do you think about this claim of his, about being from hundreds of years in the past? There's a faint sound of a soft exhalation, and a sigh. Like a sigh, then Alita answers, I think there might be a kernel of truth to it. However, I've got my own theory I'm working on as to how he got here, something that might explain some of this other strangeness. Then the two of them say goodnight and all's quiet. The lights in the main room are turned down low as Gerhard prepares for sleep. I lay awake, 1,000 thoughts a second running through my mind. A 300-year-old Martian cyborg soldier, my own short service in the military before my mental problems got me kicked out on medical discharge, an interplanetary war that very likely devastated 2 worlds, and on and on. Then my thoughts settle onto this strange affliction that's preventing my body from accepting cyberware, and the possibility that I may soon be without employment and with no place to go back to. Though I try to push it away, one thought stands out, that maybe I'm just that terrible of a person, that I deserve this. End of chapter.
That's a bit harsh.
That is really good. God. I think Alita is warming up to Jason more so. It's about this time when I was reading it, I sensed that they were becoming friends, you know.
Well, it's more that she's starting to realize that even if he's not really from, even if she doesn't believe that he's from, where he says he is, he seems to believe it. So she's starting to realize he's not, trying to con people or anything.
Yeah.
So at least there's that.
Well, that's going to change here in the near future.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, people enjoyed it then?
Oh, yes, I enjoyed it very much.
Okay. I need to get some water in me. I'm drying out.
You want to take a quick 5-minute break there, Lee, or
I think I should be good. I mean, I'm as cool as I'm going to get, considering the temperature.
Now, the next chapter is just as long from what I remember, right?
This one was 14 pages.
Yeah, what's the next one?
The next one is, I believe, let's see here, chapter 8 is 13 pages. A little bit shorter.
Yeah.
But yeah, not as long.
I might drift off halfway through. It's getting late here.
Okay. Understandable.
Yeah.
But if people are up for it, shall I continue on to the next one?
What does the chat think?
Why not? What chapter are we up to? 7 or 8?
That was 7 that I just finished.
Chapter 8, yeah.
Okay. How many chapters have you written now?
Yep. Alita the Killing Angel's up for it.
Oh, okay. Well, if nobody has any... well, I can't remember what the word is now. Damn.
Any disagreement?
Objections. Objections. Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go for it. Because the next chapter is really good. Well, I think they're all good, but the next one's pretty good.
All right. Let me go ahead and make sure I've got some more water in me.
Yeah, I'm going to mute now and just listen.
All right. Okay. Chapter 8, Adrift. Dreams. Towering mechanical Cthulhu-esque things tear apart the world, searching for me, hunting me down. Occasionally one will catch me and tear off apart, with tentacles composed of blood-soaked steel cables as they bellow their machine roars, making it seem like the world itself is shaking at their indiscriminate fury. Little by little they take me apart until I'm dragging myself on the ground. Until I'm dragging myself on the ground, trying to crawl away from them in a terrified panic with just my right arm. There's nowhere to escape from these mountainous horrors. I wake up, feeling like I'm suffocating, the sense that something terrible is hunting me, fading quickly. I heave a tired sigh and roll onto my back to stare up at the darkened ceiling. Scanning the room tells me it's a very early morning again, pre-dawn most likely. I still feel very tired, but I am in absolutely no hurry to get back to sleep. Reaching over the edge of the mattress, I thumb the switch to adjust the bed's position until I'm sitting upright. This bed, the walls around me, everything about this room hits me with an almost claustrophobic feeling. I feel the need to get out of here. Out of this bed, at least. Wrapping myself in the thin blanket, carefully keeping my right arm free, I turn and grab my pillow, toss it onto the floor. Then I lay down on my stomach and slowly slide backwards off the bed, lowering myself until I'm sitting on the pillow. Keeping myself propped against the bed, I take a moment to survey my surroundings in the dim light. The change in perspective, as well as the gray pre-dawn light, makes everything seem strangely alien. Or maybe it's a combination of all those things plus my surreal circumstances. My body no longer has parts that I was born with, and I'm still struggling with how to deal with that. I heave another tired sigh and slowly fall over onto my right side, my hand and forearm quietly smacking against the floor as I catch myself. Then I move off the pillow, grabbing up with my residual left arm by pinching it into my armpit, and slowly make my way towards the doorway. As I pull myself along, I slide while balanced as much on my right hip as possible to reduce the sound of the implants on the ends of my thighs scraping the floor. The thin blanket muffles the sound greatly, but still, in my mind, it's a strangely nerve-wracking sound, considering what the source is. Crawling into the living room area, I pause for a moment. The only sounds are the electronics in the clinic, the patter of rain outside, and the quiet snoring of Gerhard sleeping on the cot not far from my room. I was going to sit out here for a moment, but I decide not to risk waking a nurse who's probably getting far too little sleep as it is. The dim lamp next to her brightens up the room enough to make me consider going back for my glasses that I didn't think I need, but I decide not to bother. Perhaps it's some odd impulse to start trying to do more with less, or maybe I'm just an absent-minded idiot. While my mind wanders, I start slowly making my way towards the kitchen instead. Once I get there, I stop at the entry and look into the room. I feel like there was a specific purpose for coming here that slipped my mind. Ah, that must be it, I think to myself. I was going to try and get a drink of water. I look over at the sink and the area around it. It's fairly high from where I now sit. I glance down at what's left of my legs and look away in sudden disgust, wondering what the hell I was thinking. Yep, I'm a fucking idiot. Luckily, I'm not feeling all that thirsty. I can wait. I scoot over to the wall near the entryway and position myself so I can sit with my back against its surface and look out the window across the room at the slowly brightening world outside. I place the pillow down and move onto it, leaning against the cool surface of the kitchen wall. Taking a deep breath, I slowly let it out and try to relax, attempting to let go of the tension and anger. The more I try to pull myself together, the more my thoughts seem to scatter. I gaze out the window across from me, past the tracks of raindrops, and try not to think at all. It doesn't work, of course. My mind races, streaming thoughts flashing through it. A part of me keeps trying to imagine what it would be like to spend night after night, day after day out in rain like that. No secure place to sleep, no safe place to lay my head. A spiraling descent into starvation and desperation. But for now, I have a safe place to stay and food. The thought doesn't bring me any happiness or peace of mind. It just keeps me from becoming more depressed at my current state. Things could easily change for the worse. Even so, I close my eyes and send a prayer of thanks to the good Lord for my current fortune. If nothing else, I've made it farther than I thought I would. And it hasn't been all bad. Can't really imagine what would make me worth saving. I mean, I've always tried to be a good Christian, but it seems as if I fail more often than not. Anger comes easily. Forgiveness, not so much. However, I made a promise when I vowed to follow his son's path. Feed the hungry, clothe the naked, comfort the sick and afflicted. Basically, help those in need when I'm able. I thought I'd been doing that, but what if I was wrong? What if all I've been doing up to now has been hiding? Maybe in reality, I've been distancing myself from my duties, using all these strange circumstances as an excuse. That same old malicious whispering comes back. And now here you are, broken and useless, taking up space in the home of people who have got far more important matters to take care of, with everything else they're dealing with. Now they're expending resources on taking care of you. My thoughts begin to flash by as my depression tries to drown me under a flood of reasons why I've become a selfish, terrible burden. What's the point of you even being here? Surely they'd be better off if they didn't have to bother with you. The world seems to darken a little as a small voice answers back. Maybe you're right. My eyelids grow heavier as depression steals what little energy I had, and I drift off. I'm startled awake by what sounds like shouting. A noise draws my attention to the doorway on my right, where I see Alita hurriedly stepping into the room, wearing what looks like pajamas. She quickly surveys the area, her gaze coming around to land on me, sitting not more than about a meter from where she's standing. I just sit there staring up at her, wondering, what the hell is this about? She turns and shouts into the other room, "He's in here!" Then she walks around to stand in front of me and Excuse me. Then she walks around to stand in front of me and asks with a mix of curiosity and concern, Jason, what are you doing here? I'm expecting to hear metallic footfalls. Yeah. I'm expecting to hear metallic footfalls from her bare feet, but there's only a quiet padding sound. It seems that the underside of her feet are cushioned. Just as I open my mouth to answer, I'm interrupted by Dr. Ito rushing into the room. Jason, he exclaims in some alarm, nearly skidding to a halt. What the hell are you doing in here? A flash of panic hits me at the thought that they might put me back in restraints. I just had to get out of that room. My gaze flitters between the two of them, then over to Gerhard as she enters the room. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. All right, at least you're safe, Ito interjects more calmly. So why are you sitting on the kitchen floor? My mind stumbles through an explanation. That I only just managed to force out of a mouth that's reluctant to work. Well, I couldn't sleep. Sometimes when insomnia hits me, I'll get up and walk around a bit to try and relax, but I can't bring myself to finish the sentence. I shrug at it and my gaze drifts off to look out the windows. The rain has stopped. Ah, Ito says in a quiet, sympathetic voice. I see. I forced myself to look him in the eyes. Like I said, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to make trouble. I just had to, I don't know, do something. I'll get the wheelchair, Gerhard says with the tip of her head towards the other room. Ito nods to her and gets down on one knee as she leaves. Leaning on his raised knee, he says to me, you know, next time you could just ask for something to help you sleep, or even for a little time away from the recovery room. It's not as if we're trying to hold you prisoner in there. Yeah, well, a twinge of embarrassment brings my gaze down to the floor. I didn't want to bother anyone, especially at such an early hour. Gerhard returns with the wheelchair, brings it to a stop next to me, and gently scolds me. That's considerate of you, but you really should ask for help next time. Better than having you crawling around the floor, all right? Feeling like a complete idiot, I furtively glance up at her and say quietly, Yes, ma'am. It seems my trying not to bother anyone is bothering everyone. That seems about par for the course. After he helps Gerhard settle me into the wheelchair, Ito turns to Alita and asks her, Would you keep an eye on him while Gerhard and I see to breakfast? Sure, she says as she steps over the wheelchair. After leaving the kitchen, Alita stops at the edge of the little circle formed by the couch and chairs and asks me, So I'm guessing you'd like to stay out of bed for now? Still feeling a little sting of humiliation, I nod and answer quietly, Yes. All right, she says rather cheerfully. Anything in particular you'd like to do? Her more cheerful demeanor helps lift my own mood a few pegs. Well, I answer slowly, maybe I could just sit by a window for a while? Sure, she says with a note of surprise. That's all? A quiet sigh escapes me as I answer. I've been stuck in bed in a small windowless room for days now. If it's not too late, I'd like to watch the sunrise, or at least look out at the sky for a bit. She heads over to recovery and trades my window for my glasses, then turns the wheelchair towards the back of the clinic and pushes me down a short hallway towards a simple cage-like elevator that looks like something out of the 1930s. You know, she says pleasantly, you could have just asked before now. Somewhat morosely, I respond, Yeah, well, I don't always have that kind of presence of mind. As she maneuvers me into the elevator, I ask, So, where are we going? I gesture towards the living room. Figured you could just set me over there. I could. She pauses to press. I could. She pauses to press the close gate button, or to close the gate and press a button. But the upstairs will have a better view. Ah, okay then. Though I appreciate her going to the trouble, I can't help but feel like an intruder. It's like, being as I'm a patient, I should stay in the clinic below. I've got no business invading this more private living space, despite having been effectively invited. I'm an outsider. I don't belong here. We make our way down the hall, past 4 other doors, 2 on each side. A couple of the doors are slightly ajar. A glimpse inside the first one as we pass reveals a room that is decorated in a manner reminiscent of a teenage girl's room. Realizing that this is likely Alita's room, I feel a faint shock of surprise. Guess I was expecting something more along the lines of a sparse dojo-like room with weapons lining the wall or some such. Instead, it looks like my younger cousin's room, many years ago when she was a teenager. The second room seems to hold only a bare mattressed bed and several boxes stacked around it. We reach the open doorway at the end of the hall. The door opens into the wider end of a trapezoidal room. This one looks like it makes up the blunt point of the roughly triangle-shaped layout of the building, the narrow end hanging out over the main entrance below like the bow of a ship. This room looks like a study of some kind. A desk sits against one wall, and there are a couple of armchairs. The wall in which the doorway resides is lined with bookshelves filled with books, some almost new, most old and worn. Alita puts me near some windows, setting the brakes. Then she opens up the curtains, revealing a bright, nearly clear sky. The sun is probably up, but hidden by the buildings of the city skyline. One of the reasons I've never much cared for cities. You think you can stay out of trouble while I go do something really quick? She asks with a hint of humor. Holding in a sigh of exasperation, I respond evenly, I ain't going anywhere. Where is there for me to go to anyway, I think bitterly. With a nod, she says, I'll be right back. She briefly lays a hand on my shoulder as she leaves. Though my skin twitches at the contact, I try not to shrink from her touch. When she's gone, I settle in, figuring I'll be here for a while. At least I can finally see the sky, and the view's actually not bad. Zalem is nowhere to be seen from this angle. Its absence goes unmourned. Before I know it, Alita returns dressed in dark-colored street clothes. She grabs a chair from the desk, places it next to me, and whips it around to sit down on it backwards, her arms folded across the backrest. I take a moment to marvel at the graceful speed with which she pulls the whole maneuver off, then comment, You're really fast. She looks over at me, the corners of her small mouth turned up slightly, and shrugs, one of the perks of being a cyborg. Hell of a perk, I comment. We sit in silence for a moment. Then I remark, Figured you'd have headed off. Looking at me askance, her eyes narrow slightly, and she asks semi-seriously, You weren't actually planning something, were you? Slight shake of my head as I turn my gaze back out the window. Nope, just figured you had better things to do. Well, I do have plans later, she says simply, turning back to the window. But for now, Ito wants to make sure you're not left alone for too long. Ah, yeah. After all, I might sneak off with his wheelchair using my whole one arm. Bitterness turns an attempt at levity into something less so. Hey, she says, straightening up in her chair and looking me straight on. You might be surprised what you can accomplish with one arm. Yeah, I'm sure, I snort quietly. A cybernetic one, maybe. How about a 53-year-old flesh and blood arm with beginnings of arthritis? I flex my hand, noting that for the first time in a while now, I haven't actually felt the flare-up of arthritis. In fact, it hasn't bothered me the whole time I've been in this clinic. She says nothing, just frowns slightly and goes back to looking out the window. We sit and watch the sun rise up over the skyline. The orange glow engulfing the remaining clouds brightens to a more golden color. Its beauty is marred by the jagged city skyline. After the city clears the tops of the buildings, I think to ask her, just out of curiosity, where's Zalem from here? It occurs to me that I'm not even sure where in Iron City I am. Alita points off to my left. That way. Did you want to see it? No, I respond with a touch more anger than intended. More calmly, I continue in a more apologetic tone. I was just curious, glad to have one morning where I don't have to look at it. While I now know where Zalem is in relation to me, that doesn't tell me much. Iron City spreads out over a larger area than what's covered by Zalem's diameter. A few minutes later, Gerhard calls us down for breakfast. As Alita pushes me towards the elevator, I ask, is there any possibility I could get some real clothes? I would really like to get out this gown, please. You'll have to ask Gerhard. She's the one who put your things away for safekeeping. All right, self-consciousness trips me up, making me unsure, as I add. And thanks for the view. It was nice to see a sunrise after being stuck in that little room for so long. She closes the elevator gate and turns to me with a bright smile. No problem, she says lightly, hitting the button. Glad you enjoyed it. For whatever reason, my mood is significantly better during breakfast. At this point, I don't care why, only that it is. As I'm halfway through my cup of coffee, nagging thoughts coalesce into questions. During a lull in his conversation with Alita over some motorball business, I ask Ito, "You said you've never encountered anyone else with my problem, right?" He nods, taking a bite of food. "That's right. It's like nothing Gerhard and I have ever seen. I've even asked around, obliquely. No other cyber physician has encountered anything like it." Okay. I hesitate to ask the specific question, thinking it's probably going to sound stupid. "Something on your mind?" he asks, politely prompting me. I lean back in the wheelchair, collecting my thoughts before answering. "Well, this is probably a stupid question, but..." I glance around the table. "Why do you even have a wheelchair?" I don't bother mentioning little things I've noticed. Screw holes in the wall of the bathroom where it looks like bars were fastened, as if to facilitate someone in a wheelchair using the toilet, or the black marks and other little bits of damage to small areas of the walls and the door jambs, of a height where it looks like the main wheels of a wheelchair had rubbed up against them. The table becomes quiet. Gerhard shoots a faintly concerned look at Ito. He looks back at her serenely before turning to me. "That particular wheelchair," he says with a nod at the one I'm in, "is a spare. It's the twin to one that was used by my daughter after my family was exiled here from Zalem." I open my mouth to say something, but surprised at the twin revelations of him having had a family and being in exile from that floating city trips me up. I quickly glance around at the others and back to him as my mind rapidly processes this sudden news. Belatedly realizing I just brought up what must be a painful subject, as there's no sign of this family, I attempt to apologize. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pry." Ito holds up a hand as he interrupts me. "It's all right. It was years ago." Relief that I didn't put my figurative foot in my mouth as badly as I'd feared washes over me. I nod, deciding to keep any further questions to myself. I feel like an absolute moron for bringing up painful memories for the people trying to help me. Ito doesn't seem all that bothered, however. As he continues, he takes the occasional bite of food. "My daughter was born with a degenerative condition that was slowly leaving her with a progressive paralysis. Because she didn't meet the standards of genetic purity that the leadership of Zalem demanded, she was to be exiled to Iron City." Almost involuntarily, my eyes narrow and my muscles tense slightly at the mention of genetic purity. My already low opinion of Zalem drops even further. After a quick sip of coffee, Ito continues. "My wife and I refused to give her up, so we were exiled together." He glances at me with a faint smile, humorless yet wistful. "When we got here, we started this clinic. It would serve to help the people who needed it and give us the facilities to build our daughter a new, stronger body." Everyone stopped eating at this point. Alita, sitting across from me, reaches out and gently takes Ito's hand. He smiles warmly at her. Gerhard offers a sympathetic smile when he looks in her direction. He returns it with a very brief answering smile. In the presence of these little shows of affection, I feel very much like an intruding outsider. I remain silent and still. He continues. "Unfortunately, my daughter was murdered one night, before her new body could be entirely completed. Afterwards, I got rid of a number of things, including the chair she was using." He gestures towards the wheelchair. "I had actually forgotten that we still had this one in storage." With a short nod, I quietly tell him, "I'm sorry to hear that. My condolences." I clamp my jaw shut, determined not to ask any more stupid questions. Despite the pain sadness in his eyes, one side of his mouth curves up in a faint smile. "Thank you. It's been by no means easy, but I've found a purpose and people," he smiles more brightly at Alita and Gerhard, "to help me get through it." His smile fades as he says earnestly, "If you ever need to talk about anything, I'll try to make myself available." Self-consciously fiddling with my coffee cup, I say, "Well, I appreciate the offer, but from the looks of things, you folks have more than enough of your own problems." Ito shrugs slightly. "Perhaps, but I can still lend an ear should you ever need one." "That goes for me too," Gerhard says firmly. Glancing down at my nearly empty plate, I nod. "Well, thank you. I'll keep that in mind." I do appreciate them making the gesture, but I've learned over the years that people are rarely ever sincere about such offers. Even if they don't mean to be insincere, that's just how things turn out. After breakfast, as Dr. Ito is cleaning the dishes, I ask Gerhard if they still have my clothes. I would really love to get out of this gown, I tell her. Her brow furrows as she frowns slightly. I'm afraid not. We had to cut you out of the clothes you were brought in with to deal with your wounds. They were pretty well soaked with blood anyway. I'm reminded. I'd almost bled to death when Loretta brought me in. I swallow with a sudden dryness at my throat. Yeah, I guess I should have figured as much. You know what we could do, Alita says as she places the last coffee mug in the sink. We could at least get you moving on your own. You're going to take care of that? Gerhard asks appreciatively. Alita slightly shrugs a shoulder. I don't have anything pressing for now, and it'll free you and Ito up to deal with the clinic. Thank you, sweetheart, Ito says cheerfully. He gives her a quick kiss on the side of her forehead as he makes his way past her. As Alita unlocks the brakes on the wheelchair and starts pushing me into the main room, I turn my head towards her to ask, so what do you mean exactly by getting me moving on my own? Oh, Gerhard was going to install a motor, drive system, and controls in your wheelchair so you could control it yourself, give you a little independence back. I feel myself perk up a bit at that. Really? Well, that'll be nice, I rage inwardly. I want to fucking walk again. There's a quick stab of an almost sickening feeling along with anger at the thought that it really will be nice to have a motorized wheelchair. I try to shake it off. These people are really trying to help. Even if I am still stuck in this wheelchair, at least I'll have some level of mobility back. Alita brings me to a stop in an out-of-the-way corner of the clinic. You all right? She asks as she steps into view. Her eyebrows are raised slightly as she looks down at me with a trace of concern in her eyes. I take a deep breath, attempting to throw off my mood. Yeah, sorry, just tired. Okay, well, you sit tight. I'll go grab what we need from the basement. Yes, I say after her. I'll sit. My attempt at sounding more cheerful ends under a shallow wave of depression. Right here. I wait quietly, listening to the sounds of the doctor and nurse readying the clinic for the day. An early patient comes in, middle-aged man with most of his body replaced from the look of him. He stares at me in open curiosity while I sit there trying to pretend I don't notice. This goes on for a bit before Nurse Gerhead comes along to direct him to an examination area behind a screen. By the time Alita returns with a small box, I'm shaking on the edge of a panic attack. To my surprise, she notices the faint trembling. Hey, everything okay? She asks, lightly putting a hand on my shoulder. Yeah. I straighten up, fighting to regain control of my anxiety. I'm fine. I look at the box she holds. So, what's all this? Oh, this is the drive motor, battery, and she takes her hand from my shoulder and pulls out a little flat box with a thin joystick and buttons on it. Control panel. Everything we need to get you moving on your own. The system definitely looks cobbled together, but it still has the appearance of professional work. With that, she sits down cross-legged to begin installing the motor into the underside of the wheelchair. I lean over the arm of the chair and watch as she works. I'd hope the system wouldn't be so different that maybe I could help or something, but even though it all looks pretty similar to what I've worked with in the past, Alita puts it together with plenty of speed. By the time she's done, my anxiety has settled back to more manageable levels. When she's finished, I give it a try. While all those years of video games seem to pay off to some degree, I have enough trouble that we decide I need some practice, particularly after I bump into a floor lamp, nearly breaking it. I was certain it would be easier than this. We look around for an open area, but the only place close is the living room. It'll have to do, she announces. She then proceeds to clear out a spot, easily moving the couch and chairs aside as if they were made of balsa wood. When she's done, she gestures to the clearing with both arms. All right, there you go. Taking it a little more slowly, I maneuver around, getting the hang of steering this thing. A few trips up and down the hallway towards the elevator and back makes me realize I need to keep a closer eye on the clearance around the big wheels. It's a little too easy to make a mistake if I'm not careful of them. On my last trip back to the living room, I find Ito standing next to Alita, hands on his hips. One corner of his mouth turned up in a slight smile. He asks, "So, how's it working out?" I pull up to a stop about a meter from him. Not bad. Most of the problems seem to be operator error, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. Excellent, he says. Then let's get you moved. I glance back and forth between him and Alita. Okay, moved where? I need to free up the recovery room. And since you'll be staying a while, I think it's time you got better accommodations. I'm moving you up to an empty guest room upstairs. I can grab his stuff out of recovery, Alita says before heading off in that direction. Ito steps around me and begins walking away. Follow me. Caught a bit off guard by this sudden change in direction, I follow. Okay. This doesn't feel right. I'm a patient. Shouldn't I stay down here in the clinic? He leads me to a hall closet, out of which he grabs a couple sheets, a blanket, and a pillow. Then he sets them on my lap. After that, we head up in the elevator to the second floor, and he leads me down the hall towards the empty guest room that I'd seen earlier. Once inside, Ito has me help move the boxes out into the hallway, carrying the smaller ones on my lap. But as it is, I'm unable to safely navigate doorways with any speed, so I'm quickly relegated to just staying out of the way. Alita returns and gives Ito a hand with clearing out the rest of the room until only the bed and a single nightstand and a small dresser remains, while I sit off to the side, feeling a little dejected. There, Ito says, surveying the room. That should do it. Alita turns to me and says cheerily, being able to see outside might help with your depression, too. I give her a slight shrug. Yeah, it should. Ito walks over to stand in front of me, looking down at me with a stern expression. Now, I'm trusting you not to do something that will make me regret this, understood? With a firm nod, I look him in the eyes and say, understood. I glance around the room, a little bewildered at this sudden change in my circumstances. Out of reflex, I mentally retreat a little, trying to keep myself distant from my situation while I try to adjust to this new development. Ito goes on to inform me that Gerhead will no longer be staying overnight. So keep that in mind, he says. You'll need to be more willing to approach me if you need anything, all right? Only now do I realize that I've shown a propensity for not asking him for help, even going so far as to wait until Gerhead's available for revealing any minor problems, something I'll obviously have to work on. He also lets me know of the bathroom down the hall near the study where I can get a shower if I want. I would love to, I tell him, more than ready for a change from washcloths in a basin of lukewarm water. Are there any precautions I need to take if I'm going to shower with... I raise the remains of my left arm to show off the cybernetic mounting on the end of it. It'll be fine, he assures me. Anything that might get damaged by water is sealed against that sort of thing. You could completely submerge it and it won't have any problem. Head on over and I'll send Gerhard along to take care of you. I want to run those tests before the Sheffields show up. After being given a stack of clean towels and washcloths, I make my way into the upstairs bathroom. It takes a couple of tries to get through the door without taking a piece of the door jamb off, but I manage to keep my temper in check despite growing frustration. Not long after I get in and place the stack of towels and washcloths on the sink counter, Gerhard arrives, having finished with her current patients. I quickly learn that simply showering as an amputee is complicated, troublesome, and at times frustrating. I had assumed I could just hop in, sit on the floor, and let the shower go. However, Gerhard reminds me that with only one arm, my capabilities are going to be very limited. Memories return of Vanessa's time as a nurse, and the stories of when she dealt with the occasional amputee. For starters, there'll be no sitting on the floor of the shower. Gerhard helps me up onto a low plastic chair and gets me out of the gown, leaving me with nothing but a washcloth to cover myself. In the course of her duties, she has seen me nude before, but I still find myself feeling awkward and self-conscious. Being the professional that she is completely unfazed. As she told me the first time, you don't have anything I haven't seen 100 times over. After she turns the water on low, she then begins washing me, much to my dismay. I had really hoped I would have the shower to myself. Just me, the warm water, and the chance to relax away from everyone. But only having one arm means there's parts of my own body I can't wash. Despite my disappointment with the situation, as well as the frustration it engenders, I find myself enjoying the feel of warm water washing over me. However, my complaints won't remain unvoiced. Could I at least take care of what I can reach? I ask impatiently. You can let me get this done is what you can do, she replies in the no-nonsense tone of nursely authority. Now, arms up. I stifle a sigh and manage to be quiet for about 3 seconds. Are you really going to be washing me the entire time I'm here? I'm a grown man, for Pete's sake. A grown man who's going to have to learn that until Dr. Ito gets your cybernetics working, you've got a lot more limitations now. You can start doing more on your own after this, but for this first time, I'm also making a last check for any problems we might have missed otherwise, she says firmly. So, stop arguing, let me work, or I'll call Alita up here to help me. My eyebrows come down as I look at her askance. What, seriously? She merely raises her eyebrows at me slightly while giving me a firm look, lips pressed together in a straight line. I don't bother stifling a sigh of annoyance and roll my eyes, but I remain silent while she continues to scrub down my back. She does allow me to wash my own hair, at least. After several minutes, I finally work up the nerve to have a closer look at the cybernetics at the ends of my residual limbs. It's the first time I've actually focused my attention on them. Up to now, I'd kept a kind of mental distance, never looking too closely at them. I run a finger along the seam of my right thigh implant where the metal meets the flesh. I'd expected to have some kind of reaction, but not as strong as the one I get. My stomach lurches at the sight of my flesh ending so abruptly, the feel of my skin giving away so suddenly to the unfeeling implant. I stare at it for a moment, mesmerized by this alien thing that's replaced the part of my upper leg. I used to have a leg there, I think, in a daze. I used to have legs. There are times, particularly in the quiet dark before sleep, when that thought just won't stop echoing in my head. I lift my hand up to the implant at the end of what's left of my... I lift my right hand up to the implant on what's left of my left arm, feeling the dead metal that now sits there. The air starts to thicken as my lungs have to work to pull in breath. The world starts spinning around and this suffocating trapped feeling comes over me. I fight to pull in breath as my chest constricts. I close my eyes and straighten up, trying to pull in as much air as I can, but it never feels like enough. You doing all right? I hear Gerhard asks. Yeah, I just... Deep breath, trying to expand lungs that feel like they're bound in bungee cords. Just need a minute. I manage to finish. After a few heartbeats, Gerhard asks softly over the sound of the shower. You haven't really looked at them too closely, have you? I open my eyes and shake my head, keeping my breathing regular. Believe me, it'll help once there are new limbs in place. She holds her left arm, the cybernetic, at about chest. She holds up her left arm, the cybernetic, at about chest height. Having capacity restored makes a big difference. You might even have a little more capability than you did. Resting her cyber hand lightly on my shoulder, she smiles slightly. Give Ito a chance to find a solution, all right? Don't go giving up hope just yet. The hopelessness fades only a little, but it does ease up. I nod to her as I feel hot tears well up in my eyes to mix with water running down my face. I stare down at the stumps of my legs and ask, what the hell am I supposed to do in the meantime? We'll figure something out. Don't worry. We're not about to just abandon you. I close my eyes as my shoulders shake with silent sobs. The pain isn't nearly as bad this time, and it passes surprisingly quickly. Gerhard passes the remainder of the time cleaning me up by telling me about some details concerning my cybernetics. For instance, the difference between organic red blood, that they call heart's blood, and the blue cyber blood, which is filled with a form of nanotech that helps maintain the cybernetic systems while also acting as part of the interface between the cyberware and my meat body. Normally, the cyber blood uses nanotech cells to interface with my organic body in a host of ways, including collecting bioelectricity, carrying it into the cybernetic, much the way human blood cells work. However, since mine doesn't seem to be getting any energy, it's running off of a tiny internal power cell that's only supposed to augment regular power usage during times of heavy exertion and get recharged while I'm asleep or at rest. Apparently, when the actual limbs are attached, they'll come with expansions to these systems to accommodate the extra machinery. Despite my trying to keep up with her explanation, I find myself getting a little glassy-eyed. Her explanation does seem to serve its primary purpose just fine, however, keeping my mind focused elsewhere. After we're done, Gerhard shuts down the water and begins helping me towel off. Like the washcloths, this takes... See. Like the washcloths, this takes 3 for sanitary reasons. 1 for the head and upper body, 1 for the middle body, and 1 for the lower body. After this, I'll likely be back to normal everyday towel usage since I'm pretty much fully healed. This consideration brings up a question. I've been wondering something, I say to her. What's that? These sorts of injuries should have taken weeks to heal. Instead, it only took days. I hold up my hand and waggle my fingers. There's also been no sign of arthritic pain in my joints. Probably another stupid question, but how do you manage that? I'm expecting the answer to be something like medical nanites or some such. She gives me an odd look, probably not expecting me to be so ignorant on the subject, but explains. We administer drugs that speed up the body's natural regenerative properties. Most of the heavy lifting was done by medical nanotech that was in the IV solutions we gave you, combined with nutrient-dense solution to help feed your body during the process. That seems like it would be kind of expensive. It is, but we don't have to do it very often. Most of our patients that come in just require repairs, readjustments, or replacements. Few of them need to have cyberware installed into an organic body the way you did when you first came in. There's a knock at the door, and I cover myself with a towel as Gerhard answers it. Standing on the other side of the door is the now familiar blurry figure of Alita. She explains, Jason, Ito is giving you a set of his old clothes since the two of you are about the same size and build. I stare up at the young cyborg, a little owl-eyed at this unexpected offering. Well, that's awfully nice of him. Guilt wells up over taking up space in their home, using up expensive resources. Now the man's giving me the shirt off his back, as it were. I sure as hell haven't done anything to deserve any of it. Gerhard takes the clothes from Alita and asks her, could you let him know we'll be down shortly? Sure. Thanks, hon. Alita disappears from sight, and the footfalls of her short boots head off in the direction of the stairway at the opposite end of the hallway from the elevator. Gerhard finishes drying me off before helping me into the clothes with some difficulty. A nice, if worn, pair of slacks and a button-up long-sleeve shirt. As she's fastening the last of the buttons, flashes of memory hit me. Vanessa helping me dress as we got ready to go out for a date. Heartache and grief begin to overwhelm me again. I screw my eyes shut tightly as I slowly shake my head back and forth, fighting to keep control. Can't this be over already, I wonder. As my shoulders begin shaking, I choke out, I'm sorry. Hey, it's okay, she tells me. It's all right. She puts an arm around my shoulder and pulls me to her, holding me against her shoulder while I quietly cry myself out again. Thankfully, it doesn't take that long. When it's over, I gently push myself away from her. Sorry, I mutter again. She gently squeezes my shoulder before letting go. Don't worry about it. After giving me a few seconds, she says, come on, we have to go. Ito's waiting on us. I lean back and pull in a deep breath, collecting myself and nod to her. Right. She helps me back into the wheelchair and we head downstairs. When we get to the OR, I thank Ito for the clothes. You're quite welcome, he says jovially while attaching test leads to my cyberware. How do they feel? Tugging at the rolled up pants leg, I say. The pants are fine. Shirt's a little tight around the shoulders, but it's fine otherwise. You are a little broader in the shoulders than Dr. Ito, Gerhard observes. A seriousness comes over the doctor as he glances up from his work at me. How are you feeling? Well, I pause to collect my thoughts. Okay, I guess. I glower at the implant on the end of what's left of my arm to avoid looking at him. Ito grunts and nods. It would no doubt help greatly if I could just get your cybernetics working. Might be my imagination, but I can almost hear a note of self-recrimination in his voice. The remainder of the tests pass quickly and quietly. The results are the same as before. The cyberware is fine. It's just not recognizing the fact that it's hooked up to a living body. Afterwards, I'm allowed to retreat to my new room, likely due to Alita leaving and a lack of manpower to keep me under watch. Besides, I suspect all the dangerous stuff they're worried about me getting into is downstairs. So I sit, staring out the window for a bit, wanting to just get away from everyone and everything and having no need to be anywhere. Gerhard comes in to check on me a couple times. I do my best to be polite, but I'm just not in the mood for company. And I don't feel the need to be inflicting myself on the others right now. Lunchtime comes and goes. Gerhard brings me a sandwich and drink. I manage to eat about half of it, despite no real interest in food. Before long, I'm called downstairs. The Sheffields have arrived. When I get down, I find Henry, Loretta, and Natira all standing in a small group, talking with Ito, Gerhed, and Alita. Upon seeing me, Loretta breaks away from the group and jogs over to me. When she gets to me, she leans down and wraps her arms around me, hugging me tightly. I return the hug just as tightly, if a bit awkwardly. When she pulls away, I'm surprised to see tears in her eyes. "Good to see you again," she says, beaming while wiping the tears away with the back of one hand. "How are you holding up?" I feel a broad smile form. Seeing the three of them again almost feels like being home. "Hey, kiddo, I'm doing all right. It's good to see ya." The rest of the group makes their way over, and Natira is the next to greet me. She leans down to hug me just as tightly as Loretta did, if more briefly, and gives me a firm kiss on the cheek before pulling away. "Hello," she says faintly. "Hi," I say back to her. Even looking as tired and worn as she does, she's still beautiful. Although I don't feel it is often the case, the expression on some of the others in the room tells me that I may have gone a little red after a kiss. I glance downward in mild embarrassment, but look back up at her as she briefly clasps my hand for a single squeeze before releasing it. Henry steps up at last, grinning broadly. He leans down to clasp my hand with both of his for 2 firm handshakes. I feel a twinge as I watch my own flesh and blood hand, frail in comparison to his sturdier cybernetics, disappear in his grip. I do my best to hide my reaction, but it's disheartening to know that the attack did more than change the way I look. It changed the way I react to people, at least a little bit. Even when I first met him, I had never felt that kind of fear just from shaking hands with the man. This close, it's evident that Henry's also looking rather worn down, likely a sign that things aren't going too well on the farm. "Hey, Jason," he says before releasing my hand and straightening up. Gesturing with a thumb over his shoulder towards Ito, he says to me, "Doc Ito was telling us you got some kind of neurological disorder that he's never seen before. Really sorry to hear that." I glance over at Dr. Ito, standing just behind Henry. "Yeah, he's been hard at work on it. They're hopeful that some kind of solution will show up." "I'm guessing you're not?" Natira asks me. It's a slight shrug, I answer. "Considering it's nothing like anything he's seen before, let's just say I'm going to wait and see." Henry nods, a look of understanding crossing his weathered features. "Well, anyway," he looks down at his feet as he shifts, looking uncomfortable. "We really missed having you around, but I got some bad news that I thought you should hear in person." He pauses to clear his throat. "I'm afraid with the way things have been going, I just couldn't afford to keep a spot open when we're short-handed as it is." He looks up at me from under his brows, lips pressed together in a thin line. This is pretty much what I've been expecting. It still hurts to realize that I've just lost both my only home and my job at the same time. I swallow the lump in my throat and nod. Well, I sort of figured it would have to come to that. "Maybe so," he says earnestly, "but I still wish I could have kept a place for you." His voice becomes pained. "I'm really sorry, Jason." I put my hand up, interrupting. "It's all right." "No, it's not," Loretta says angrily. "After everything that's happened, you don't deserve this." Her father looks over at her and says with audible pained exasperation, "Loretta," I'm gathering that the two of them may have argued about this before. "Hey," I say to Loretta loudly, letting some of my own anger strengthen my voice. When they turn their attention to me, I'm careful to make sure I've got a tight rein on the pain and anger that's threatening to well up inside me. I take a quick breath before going on in a gentler tone. "You and your father have been fighting to hold on to that place since long before I ever came along. You need to do what it takes to make sure you don't lose it." I push down on the awful hurt that tries to rise up as I continue. "I'm not going to be any help to you in my condition, and you can't afford to wait for me. That means hiring someone who can do what you need done." I hold her gaze, hoping she sees the logic, hoping she won't blame her father for any of this, or herself. Neither of them deserve that. Hugging her arms to herself, she relents with a silent nod. She looks close to tears, mirroring how I'm feeling right now. Alita puts a hand on Loretta's shoulder, a comforting gesture. Loretta offers her a faint smile in return, lightly patting the fingers of Alita's hand. Into the silence that follows, Natira says to me, "We brought your footlocker and all your things." She gestures towards Henry. "The last of your pay's in there, too." "Hopefully it'll help out a little," Henry adds. "Just sorry it couldn't be more." I wave off his concerns. "I'm sure it'll be fine. Grateful for whatever you can spare, especially since I still need to pay Dr. Ito back for what he's done for me. But enough about all that. How's the new hire working out?" I tried to sound conversational, hoping to ease the tension that suddenly filled the air. It seems to work because the talk turns to what's been happening on the farm with this new guy. Apparently, he's a younger man with no cyberware, down on his luck, and seems eager to prove himself. "So far, he's doing all right," Loretta says, "but he's got some big boots to fill." Her smile drops away, and she looks almost stricken as her gaze flits to and away from the stumps of my legs. I nod, ignoring her reaction and attempt to push on. "Well, hopefully he'll prove better than the guy I replaced." Taking on a more offhanded tone, I ask, "Oh, he's not driving Axel up the wall, is he?" Tira answers, "Haven't heard any complaints yet." Conversation goes on for some minutes more as we discuss less important matters and happenings, with Dr. Ito taking the time to visit with the guests as well. Soon, patients arrive and it's time to part ways. There's one last handshake from Henry and farewell hugs from Loretta and Natira. Natira's embrace lasts longer this time, something about it lending a certain finality to her goodbye. As he heads out the door, Henry turns to Ito. "Thanks for taking care of him, Doc." "Absolutely," Ito says as he walks into the front door. "Rest assured, I'm going to do everything I can to get him walking again." There's one last wave goodbye, and they're out the door. As Ito and Gerhard head off to tend to the new patients, I sit and stare at the door the Sheffields and Natira just left through. I tried to be prepared for this, but it still hurts. Even though I try not to, I can't help feeling abandoned as I watch them head back to their lives while I'm stuck here. "Come on," I hear Alita say from nearby. "I'll carry your footlocker up to your room." Glancing over, I nod to her. "Thank you." Once up in my new room, she sets the footlocker down at the foot of the bed, then turns to me. "Well then, anything else you need?" she asks. I stare at my footlocker blankly for a moment before my brain finally engages. No, I don't think I need anything." I rub at my eyes, trying to ease the irritated feeling that's beset them. Everything feels so heavy. "Thank you," I finish. "Sure thing," she pauses for a moment, then comments in a lighthearted tone. "That woman, Natira, certainly seems to like you." It's so difficult keeping my focus. Yeah, I guess so." I go back to staring blankly at my footlocker. "Why do you say that?" Faint furrows form on her forehead. "You don't find her attractive?" I finally manage to tear my eyes away from the footlocker as I fight to refocus my attention. "I find her very attractive. I just don't see that going anywhere." Annoyed at her insistence on talking to me when I just as soon be alone, I ask, "Why does any of that matter?" Crossing her arms over her chest, she says, "Seems like that would be a good thing, having someone who cares about you like that. You don't think so?" Short sigh escapes me. I kept my focus on work. Didn't see the point in anything else. Now, after what's happened, I gesture vaguely at nothing in particular. She clasps her hands behind her back and wanders over towards the window. "What, you don't feel she could care about you because of what happened to you?" Clearly, she's not going to be leaving soon. I hold down a sudden spark of anger. "More like she can't afford to," I say. I'm trying not to lose my patience, but I'm really wishing I could be alone. "What do you mean?" she asks. "I mean, she's already got her hands full just taking care of herself." Despite my effort to control it, a hint of anger begins seeping into my voice. Not to mention, she's got a family here in Iron City that she's trying to help financially. Even if she weren't living out of a little room in that bunkhouse, she's got neither the time nor the resources to be taking care of someone in my position. So it's probably just as well that nothing ever happened between us. feeling that she's going to somehow pass judgment on people just trying to survive only stokes that anger. Silently, she stares out the window for a time before turning to me with an enigmatic expression. Well, maybe someday that'll change. She gestures with one hand towards the door. Come on. I stifle an irritated, tired sigh. I think I'll just stay. Ito doesn't want you left alone for long, she says firmly. Not for the next couple of days, anyway. She gestures at the door again. So, come on. The look she gives me makes it clear I don't have any say in the matter. I look at both her and the door, trying to think of something to say that'll get her to leave me alone. But I already know there's nothing I can say. Finally, I relent. All right. I maneuver the wheelchair towards the hall. As we head for the elevator, she says, we still have other things that need to be dealt with, such as your lack of ID. We need to somehow get you one without going to the factory. I'll introduce you to my friend Kiyomi. I think she might know some people that could help with that. I pause and turn to look back at her. What? You mean like some kind of forgery? I ask, a little shocked. Considering the draconian response to breaking laws around here, them getting me a forgery seems like a step too far. Coming to a stop alongside me, she puts her hands on her hips and responds steadfastly. It'll probably have to be. You heard Ito, you can't go through regular channels, especially if their sensors can't even scan you properly. That'll just set off alarms. We'll get to the elevator. I look up at her doubtfully. Isn't that going to be expensive and dangerous? Shrugging it off, she responds breezily, money isn't a problem, and I think we can manage the risks involved. I feel like I should argue, but I can't summon the energy to do so. I'll just have to trust that these people know what they're doing. It is their world, after all. End of chapter.
Wow, that was great. That was really good.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh,
Hope
yeah.
everybody else enjoyed it too.
Yeah, we're coming up on a couple of chapters here where they have that little funny interaction that I really get a kick
That'll
out.
be chapter.
Is that 9 or 10? I can't remember.
I think it's 10 actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think 11 is when they head back out to the circle, and 12 is also with them in the circle as well.
Yeah, it's real funny too. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna spoil because I want to have you back. You know,
Okay.
to keep reading. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put, in case somebody wants to go read it, I want to put the link, I guess, to your fanfic in the chat. Let me see if I can find it here.
Okay.
Let's see. Still looking. Oh, I went past it.
I wonder what Badman
There it
said
is.
that in response to.
There we go. Yeah, I got it.
Well, I appreciate the praise, AKA, but I still have a hard time believing people even want to hear me reading this thing.
It is a great story, Lee. You shouldn't be.
I know I shouldn't be down on myself. My girlfriend
Yeah,
tells me the same
It
thing.
is really good. I've enjoyed it, when I've read it, when I've been able to read it, so that'd be kind of cool. Hopefully, you never know. I mean, we don't have a lot of people on the stream here today, but people will see it because like I was telling you pre-stream, most of my subscribers are in Asia. So, that's, I think like only 25% of my subscribers are in the US. So, does the site, Badman says it's a good story as well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does the site have a translation device?
I have no idea, actually. I haven't ever even looked into something like that.
Yeah, it usually you'll see, like I know on YouTube and on X or Twitter, they have that little translate to English. You click on it, and it does that. So I don't know,
Yeah, I could not tell you one way or the other, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So I think Blottie's probably asleep. Because it's probably
very late for him, or
yeah,
very early in the morning.
Yeah, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning for him. I think something like that, or 1:30, coming up on 1:30. So yeah, he's probably sawing Z's right now. So anyway, well, it's only me that can react, I guess. And I like I've told you before, I'm not very much of a critic, in terms of saying, well, your style here is this way, and you do something like that. I'm not that kind of critic.
If you're at least enjoying it, that's that's good.
Yeah, Microsoft Edge. Yeah, Microsoft Edge does have a translation feature as well, and I think they have Google Translate. AKA says good night, Blotty, or night, Blotty.
Yeah, he's probably already asleep.
Yeah, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it when I've read it. And it's here's guess who's come on board here.
Oh,
we got the guy from down under, down there in Bris Vegas. How's it going there, Angelus?
He's muted.
I think you're muted there, Angelus. So.
Oh yeah, whoops. Good, and just a tiny bit of not so good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that there's more good than not so good.
Yeah.
Well, the not so good part is more like funny and outright hilarious, but yeah, I'll explain more once. Maybe explain it in the after stream. The Stomtish.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we're gonna have the Stomtish. We'll have it now. Gosh, I copied the slide over from another one, so I'll have to post the link in the chat. Matter of fact, I can go ahead and do that now. So
actually, as a bit of forewarning, is Vladdy still with us?
We think he's asleep.
Yeah, his mic's muted and he hasn't said or done anything, so he might have turned in already.
It's probably a good thing though, because the not so good bit is probably something that he'd rant about endlessly.
Aha.
Looks like AKA loves your avatar there, Angelus.
Well, who doesn't?
Yep.
Woo.
Woo indeed. Lady in red. Oh my lord.
Yeah, I hope she doesn't think too ill of us for, we all love Rosa very much. She's great. We just I hope she's not too embarrassed.
Well, whether like little clip bits like this ever reach her eyes and
I don't know. She did tell Charlie and I she was going to check out Radio Chaos, and she did say that. So and
maybe, at the very least, going by the reception that she gave you two in particular, to I wouldn't say random, but random in the sense that like she could have had this encounter with any sort of fan, if you will.
Yeah.
But considering that she had this random encounter with, members of the Alita army, probably left a good impression on her. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we did. I mean, we were very respectful. I mean, I really tried hard to be. I mean, she's just phenomenal. Rose is, and it's but she's so down to earth. She's great, But anyway, I stop ranting here, or not ranting. I'll stop waxing lyrical about her because I don't want to embarrass her if she ever sees this, because but we are great fans of hers. We love her to death. We want that sequel for her, and certainly we all wish her the very best in her career, for sure. So anyway, that's that, I guess.
Also, in all honesty, like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that might have felt the same way about, like previous generations, Audrey Hepburn going way, way back there.
Mm.
Or, like slightly newer actors, well, not so old actors in the sense of Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah.
Using another Alita example, and then like she's like had the torch pass on to Rosa. So yeah, it's definitely let's just say, to sum up, I'm confident that she knows it's definitely like a 99% appreciation thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
All right, so shall we go ahead and leave it off there with chapter 8?
Yeah, let's leave it off there because we've been going for 2.5 hours. So
Okay.
I kind of figured that chapter 7 and 8 were going to be long ones because they're the longest too, aren't they? Lee,
Not actually. No, there's
okay.
Fortunately, I had to bring them up. There are some chapters like what was it? Chapter 28, I think it was.
Oh, I haven't got
chapter 25, I think it was. That's actually
yeah.
That one's 18 pages.
Ooh, that's going to be cool. I can't wait to get my hands on that one. So yeah, that'll be good. So
yeah, that was the one that I changed the ending on, because the ending that I currently had on it was not the ending I wanted. I kind of chickened out, thought I was going too long with something, and so I cut it short. And then, well, with how well it was received on the stream, I kind of, helped my confidence a bit. So I went ahead and went back and put back the original ending I had intended, which did increase it by 1 page length. But when holy crap, I can't remember. When Maxie read it, he got to see the previous version and the version that I had originally wanted when I put it back on there, and he said he really liked the longer version. He said it added more to the chapter, rounded it out better.
Yeah, I think, Lee, when you have that gut feeling, that when you write something the first time, maybe you may go tune it a little bit, but I think that's going to be the best version. If you get to ruminating on it too much about, I don't know if people are going to like
you
it,
start trimming it up too much, and you end up
that's right.
cutting out something that made it good.
Yeah, you start losing something then, because I've thoroughly enjoyed it so far, reading it,
I'm glad.
And in the absence of a sequel, it's a pretty good substitute, I think, because the mental images
I think I would rather have the sequel, but
for sure, but the mental images I have when I read it are vivid,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I see those two characters on the screen right there in my mind whenever I'm reading it, And I guess I can kind of identify with Jason myself. And I was never in the military, but I worked for the Department of Defense for probably 20 odd years.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that you worked alongside the military even before an actual.
Oh yeah, I worked with Air Force guys, Army guys, Marines, Navy guys. I worked with a lot of them. So yeah, it's and a lot of my I guess perspective on things comes from being exposed to military, like that. So yeah. So anyway. That's what we got here. AKA is saying in the episode of the sequel, this definitely fills a vacuum. Yeah, it does. I guess you can never replace the sequel, but this is not a bad substitute. And Maxie's is not a bad substitute either. Now it's not quite as long as Jason's.
I would argue his might be a better one because he sticks closer to the source material. So I think.
Yeah, but this is what I like about your story, though. It's kind of a extrapolation.
What if sort of thing.
Yes, extrapolation of what happened, but it's not outside of the how would you say the spirit, of Alita. That's what I think. But anyway,
I tried to stick close to, all the stuff that was there. I basically try to keep all the characters as the characters, not change them in any way, significant way.
Caravan of Courage.
Yep.
Yes,
I do have a link to Maxie's. Let me go get it.
That is a old movie set in the Star Wars universe. And unlike series like The Mandalorian or Ahsoka, there is not a single Jedi or main series character in it whatsoever. But like I said, it's set in the Star Wars universe, and the only, ironically enough, the only recurring character in that movie is, I forget his name now, but the one of the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi is in that movie as well. In fact, and the only planet that they really explore that the story occurs on is Endor.
Yeah, it's
Endor.
Ewok's home planet. Yeah.
Yeah. So and the reason why I mentioned that is because that's still a story set in a universe that we all know, but doesn't have anything to do with the main characters that we were originally introduced to in that world that we all know and love.
Yeah.
Same thing here. It's set in the world that Kishiro created, but and it even has some recurring characters, but they're not the main ones of the story. So,
yeah, as odd as it might sound, I actually felt a bit of trepidation doing this because it may sound weird, but I felt like if I got too deep into some of the major events, like the Zerker Pan arc and all that, I felt like I might be stepping on somebody's toes if I did that. So I tried to write the story around a lot of that. Somebody's got alarms going on.
Yeah, that's.
yeah, sorry, that's me. That's my bad.
Somebody trying to break into your car?
No, just CCTV alarms. Because I'm at work at the same time, but
okay.
I'm going to go for another foot patrol for like 45-ish minutes. So basically on time.
All right. But I'll be honest, I didn't think people would be too interested about hearing about a guy who was stuck in a wheelchair trying to deal with life in Iron City.
Well, but it's the story though. That's what I like.
Yeah.
You know, and he's not going to be in the wheelchair much longer. So I mean, you know.
Well, he's got another
little while longer, but yeah, you're right.
Another 12 chapters to go for that.
Yeah.
But he does, yes, he gets out of it finally.
Yeah.
And he even gets into a fight that he wins eventually.
Yeah, let's not steal. Let's not.
I ain't gonna spoil it, you know, anything like that. Just he eventually stops getting quite as badly kicked around as he has been.
Yeah. Well, another thing I love, and I don't want to spoil too much, but Alita, you know, in the manga, Alita has a dojo, you know, and she trains cyborgs and even trains humans on martial arts, you know. Well, she's going to train Jason too, you know, and there's some comical interaction going on there as well. So, yeah.
Well, I am hoping people will enjoy it.
It
looks like Vladdy said he got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm like, basically, Steve, it was only Creaky's chair that woke me up.
Oh. Yeah. What's that?
We figured you drifted off already, so.
Yeah, that's cool. We're good with that. That's a good bedtime story, isn't it, Lottie?
It's the I need to catch up though tomorrow. I mean next week or whenever we do it again.
Yeah. Well, you can also look at.
I've got to go, guys. Good night.
You have a good night.
We'll see you.
See ya.
Good.
Okay, guys. If there's nothing else, we can move on, I guess, because we've been going now we're approaching 3 hours, but that's okay. Creaky's streams sometimes go that long.
Yeah, I figure you might want to stick it down. Just cut it down.
I'm just keen to let you guys know what the 1% news is in the Stammtisch, because I don't know. I'm keen to hear you guys' thoughts without it being live just yet, because I've only just found out about it like a half an hour ago myself.
Alrighty.
Alrighty. Well, moving on. Did we miss anything?
The only thing we're missing is Rosa and the sequels.
And the sequels. That's exactly right. So, and we're missing the remaining 17 or not 17. It'll be 21 chapters of Lee's story, but we're going to get those eventually. So that's good. And as you can see from that middle panel right there, Alita does love her Uncle Creek. And that's because he wants a sequel for her, you know, and she wants a sequel, and the entire Alita army wants a sequel. And damn it, Disney, give us a sequel for Christ's sake.
Yeah, chop, chop.
Yeah. And here's our queen right here. And of course, our queen is phenomenal in the Creek's estimation. And I promise I'm not going to wax lyrical again. But she's.
Can you ask me to send this photo? Because I don't know if I have it or not. And
you don't have this. This is an older photo. You don't have this one?
Well, I mean, just in case that I don't have it.
Okay. All right, I'll send it to you. No problem. I'll send it to you on Discord. Or I might even send it to you on X. We'll see.
Discord X. I just need that in my life.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but yeah, our queen is phenomenal, man. She's, you know, and I'm not going to wax lyrical. I promise I'm not going to. But, you know, when I saw her on stage, man, she was just freaking magnificent. I mean, you know, God almighty. And all of those actors that were in that play were just great. But I tell you, Rosa's stars shined bright in that play. I'm telling you, man, she was just phenomenal. She stole the show, in my opinion, many times. Now, I'm biased, and so is Charlie. He feels the same way. But, yeah, she was just great, you know. I also want to give shout-outs to El Lamont and Jesse Fisher because they brought Screwhead to life. And what the Creek wants to see is he wants to see Alita and Screwhead team up, you know, and when they take on Joshagon in Alita 2. So all three of these are just all three of these folks are professionals. They're just, and they're all great at what they do. You know, certainly Rosa and Elle as actors, and Jessie is the most, I guess, badass stunt woman that Elle's ever worked with. So she said. So anyway, yeah, come on, Disney. Let's give us all a break. You know, we want that sequel. Tomorrow on Radio Chaos, we're going to be going over manga Oh No's, and who spells no like that? I don't get it. But anyway, yeah. What might Battle Alita? What might Battle Angel Alita Panzerkunst Chronicles have in store for us? And that's going to be an interesting topic because we only have speculation right now. You know, I suspect we're going to probably see a little bit more about Alita's training, you know, as a Künstler, you know, in the Martian military. And we'll see that, you know, probably. And we're going to see probably more of her after she returns to Mars from Venus and stuff like this, you know. And we'll probably even maybe see her in Return to Earth, you know, at some point. We don't know, but we're going to chat about that tomorrow. And I think, are you going to be the host on this one, Angelus, or is it Maxie?
Oh, hell no. I'm working the same shift tomorrow as well.
Oh, that's...
Maxie will probably be doing... hopefully he's hosting. I'll let him know about it, but...
Yeah, you got a weird schedule there, Angelus. But it's a schedule similar to firefighters, I think. But anyway, but that's cool, you know. Yeah. So Maxie will be the host. I'll be producing and stream managing this. So, you know, we'll have a great time, and Angelus will probably be in the chat. So we won't miss it, you know.
No, not that much.
And that is the wrong link right there. I forgot to change it. So here's the correct link right here, this link. Click on that in the chat. Don't type that in from there because that's an old link and you'll be waiting forever if you do that, you know. So yeah, click on that link right there if you want to join us for the Stammtisch. You know, we don't stream this. It's not live, so you know nobody will know. You know, if you're a little reticent about getting on the stream, or you're concerned maybe that you don't want any part of your identity or whatever to get out in the internet or something like that. You know, but it's not going to be it's not a recording. It's not live. It's just us sitting around chatting. It's like a Zoom call. So, you know, it's, you know, and we have a lot of fun on this sometimes, you know, we just, you know, just talk about Alita and we even, you know, go over artwork sometimes and pictures and stuff like that. Is correct to say pictures now or photos? I don't remember. God, I'm showing my age, I guess. So anyway.
Either or.
So anyway, but join us. We'd love to have you, and then you can introduce yourself to us and chat with us, and we will love to have you. We are the Alita Army. We are the most positive fandom on the internet, and we support Alita and Rosa passionately and positively, and we are here to stay. And Disney, you're not ever going to get rid of us. We're always going to be here. So you may as well just buckle up and give us a sequel. Besides, you'll make money on it. For Christ's sake, you got all these fans out here just begging for a sequel, begging for more content. And you're going to make money on this. So please do it. Now that said, why is this image here? Well, that image is there because I like it. And of course, that's Alita in her Imaginos body right there. And to paraphrase Gruishka, I'm only here for our girl and our queen, as we all are in the Alita Army, only here for our girl and our queen, because we want those sequels. And that just leaves us with one thing left to do, and that would be the call to action. On my count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Fill those sequels, baby.
All right, so we'll see you next week on the Alita live stream. Getting tongue-tied here. And tomorrow on Radio Chaos. Bye.
Take care, guys.
What's up, Alita Army? This is Hot Toys Alita, and I hope you enjoyed this week's Alita live stream. Please join my Uncle Creek, Angelus, and our other guests for next week's show. Remember, I do not stand by in the presence of evil, and film those sequels, baby. See you next time.